Stand by to launch FanStream Sports.
3, 2, 1.
Let's start.
Hello, sports fans. Welcome to FanStream Sports. Nothing but pure sports. This is the JP Show.
JP, it is so good to hear you back on the air.
Stand by. Now, here's JP.
Oh, it is a great morning to be a Buccaneer fan indeed. Mike Evans has signed a 2-year deal for $52 million per his agent in Adam Schefter. He will remain a Buccaneer, probably retire a Buccaneer. And this tells everybody, if you've been paying attention, that A, he thinks Baker Mayfield's an elite quarterback. And Baker Mayfield's coming back. Woo. Yeah, we got lots to get to today on this Monday edition of the JP Peterson Show. We're so glad you are with us today. If you're on 102.5, The Strike HD2, make sure you lock that in each and every day to join us live on the radio or on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. We're all over the place, and, of course, YouTube. So thanks for joining us. We got Trevor Sikkema going to join us from Pro Football Focus. He was at the Combine all last week. Matt Matera from Pewter Report's going to join us as well. He was at the Combine all last week. We'll be chatting about Mike Evans and what we saw at the Combine, what the Bucs will be doing. We'll be going over the Bolts' big win with Erik Erlendsson and what they're going to do with the trade deadline coming up, which is this week. So good time to have Double E's on the show. So much to get to today, including the Rays as well. And I'll say good morning to you, Nick Geddes, lifelong Bucs fan. I know you're happy this morning. How are you?
Yeah, this is a great morning in Tampa Bay, as we would have expected. That Mike was probably not going anywhere.
He's not going anywhere.
Right.
How many times have we said that?
Yeah, I think everybody with a pulse here at Tampa Bay has been telling you all along that there's no way this guy's getting out the door unless there was some exorbitant amount of money that they were going to get him. It was never going over $30 million, whoever decided to put that out there. Most likely not. Yeah, good deal. And I guess you can't keep the NFL down long, JP, because now we know this is the first domino, really, of free agency in this whole franchise tag period. It's going to get crazy. Yeah. And the Bucs have really kicked that off. So exciting times in the NFL.
Yeah, and really, as we break this down, there's a lot of different ways to break this down. First and foremost, this signing means Mike Evans, who literally had a career year at the age of 30, is going to be a weapon moving forward for the next couple of years. I think this, squarely puts the Bucs in. I think they're a top 10, maybe even top 8 football team in the NFL, because I'm extrapolating this to mean Baker Mayfield is coming back. Okay, Mike Evans signs. Antoine Winfield's not going anywhere. I believe this. This is juice, man. It's just the first domino. This gets Levante David going. Remember when Brady's like, I'm coming back, we're going to put the band back together, blah, blah, blah. You get that juice going. Now, they didn't win a Super Bowl, but they got close. They got the second round of the playoffs. Probably should have won that game too. But so that's the year you want. But the energy is what I'm talking about. And Mike brings that energy. When Mike comes back, that means Levante's not going to be sitting on the sideline, right? I don't see another team throwing tons of cash at him, but then the Bucs love him. They're going to pay him a fair wage, probably more than they paid him last year. So that means Levante's back. The band's back. And that means you can now go concentrate in the draft. You don't need to draft a receiver within the first round. Go get your edge rusher. Go get your center. Go get your interior lineman. Start building, from within again. Add another piece. You got 7 picks, maybe even 8 in the draft. They may have 8. 7 picks in the draft, whatever it is. Build another great draft class. Your first-year players from last year, Yaya Diaby gets better. Kalijah Kancey gets better because he has a full training camp to start the season and already is a pretty damn good football player. So you see a team building a roster. That's what this is when you get that key piece, right? And Baker's going to be next. I thought he might hit free agency, but I think Baker's going to sign as well. I think there's no way Mike doesn't talk to Baker and Baker not say, hey, yeah, you signing, I'm signing. Let's go. Let's get this done. So I think it's huge.
You just can't tell me there's a better situation out there for Baker Mayfield than the one that was already in last year. No. You just can't. Like I saw, over the Combine weekend, and I say this all the time. The part I hate about the NFL offseason is the distance between the season ending and the draft and all this stuff, because there's like all this time for people to say the most ridiculous things that are never going to happen, and everybody overreacts to them. and gets all heated up about it.
Yeah.
And it's so unrealistic, like Mike exactly coming back before even hitting free agency. And I was told there was a report 2 days ago saying the Bucks were far apart and Mike's going to test free agency. And then they just dropped this bomb on us out of nowhere. Same thing with Baker Mayfield. I'm watching the combine and they're telling me that the New England Patriots are a sneaky team for Baker Mayfield. And I'm like, what sense is it for Baker Mayfield to go to probably the worst roster in the NFL with brand new everything? It makes no sense. So I wouldn't doubt it one bit if the Bucks get it done with Baker before free agency. They still got like a week before it officially starts. And now that they know they got Mike, and I'm sure this contract, by the way, this is going to be a Greenberg special. That's coming.
Yeah.
So they're going to have plenty of money for Baker, even if they want to overpay a little bit if they feel like they need to do that. They can get that done.
Special. I like that.
Yeah, Greenberg special. It sounds like a Philly. It sounds like a roll,
Yeah, it does.
That's what it sounds like, the Greenberg
That's like
special.
a bagel at the shop. Yeah.
Exactly.
I'll have the Greenberg special, please. That's a
Yeah.
schmear with a little extra lox.
And we've been munching on it for years, by the way.
Yeah.
It tastes good every single time.
Yeah.
But yeah, to me, their free agency, their offseason is set in place. Either they're going to get Baker done before free agency, they're going to tag Winfield probably, and then I think Levante is 100% locked to come back. I don't see him playing anywhere else. The only big free agent you're going to have to sign is probably your kicker. Yeah. I think that's where this is heading right now for the Bucks, and then you evaluate where else you need to add some stuff.
I'd actually like to see them get Winfield signed long-term and franchise the kicker, because that doesn't cost you hardly anything, keeps him around, and then you work on a long-term deal if you want. And if kickers are year to year, man. Chase had a great year. He had a great year. Hopefully he comes back this year and he has another great year. But if he doesn't, you franchise him and get rid of him instead of having him on a long-term deal. So anyway, well, that's way down the road. But you're right. This starts all the dominoes just to fall. And Mike doing it early does allow them the flexibility now to know what their numbers are. And I think, I agree with you. I don't think Baker hits free agency. No, I don't.
After this, I don't.
No, I don't, because there's no way Mike is signing here. And I kind of like this because over the weekend, you saw the quote from Derek Gilmore, his agent, Mike's agent. And it was, he wants to play with an elite quarterback and win a Super Bowl. But everybody's like, well, that's not the Bucks. There's no Baker Mayfield's not an elite quarterback. So I wonder if that was just kind of like you know what? We think he's an elite quarterback and we're going to win the Super Bowl.
Listen, if Mike thinks he's an elite quarterback, that's fine.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's fine.
Your definition of elite is different than everybody's. Right. So if Mike, exactly. If Mike thinks he's elite, fine. Do I think he's elite? I mean, what is elite? Is Hall of Famer? No, he's not a Hall of Famer. What's your definition of elite? Is he a top 10 quarterback in this league? Yes, he is.
Well, he played like one last year.
Yeah, I think he is.
At times.
I think he is. I don't think there's, I have to go down the list, but I don't think there's, 10 guys that I would take in front of him for this team now. And here's the other thing, folks. You could take a nice, well, would you take Caleb Williams? Well, I mean, I don't know. I don't know what Caleb Williams is going to be. I know what Baker Mayfield is, and I know how he fits into this organization. And the other thing that's really underestimated is chemistry with receivers. Baker has a great chemistry with Mike, obviously, and he has I think he has a great chemistry with Chris as well, and Kate Otten and Rashad White. I mean, you cannot replace a years of playing with guys, knowing what they're going to do in certain situations, and not just in practice, but on the field. Who they are. There are certain guys, right? And I've talked to players about this, and quarterbacks especially. Like, quarterbacks are like, look, that guy was a good receiver, but I was never going to him on third down when the money was on the table, because I just don't know if he's going to drop it, he's going to run a bad route, or he's just not going to be where I think he's going to be. 2nd down and 7, I'll go to him all day long. 3rd and 4, 4th and 3, no. Red zone, no. So there are certain guys who you can trust, where you can trust them, and when you can trust them. And you don't get that unless you play with them during games on the field. This is why continuity is king in the NFL. So Baker, if let's say there's a situation and it goes to Atlanta. Hey, good weapons, right? Got a nice offensive line. Okay, good. It all looks good, but you don't have the chemistry with the receivers yet. And yeah, you can build it in the offseason, but not like when you play with them. So Baker knows the value of continuity and being with guys. And why would you leave that and the organization. You're comfortable with Jason Light. You're comfortable with the food staff, believe it or not. It's not as horrible as you would think, folks. You're comfortable with all the other, the community that you live in, which he is. He loves this community. The community loves him back. He ain't going anywhere. And just like we told you, Mike wasn't going anywhere. He wasn't going to the Chiefs. Oh, he's going all weekend long. That's all I heard. Oh, yeah, think about him and Patrick. He said elite quarterback and win a Super Bowl. He's going to the Chiefs. I'm like, no, they've already – why would the Chiefs spend $32 million or $30 million, whatever it's going to take to get Mike Evans, and not do the same for Tyreek Hill? That makes no sense whatsoever.
Especially since they won a Super Bowl throwing to, MVS and Justin Watson and all those guys.
Oh, but MVS is not coming back. They need one. Patrick Mahomes clearly does not need.
They'll find it elsewhere, and it's going to be a lot cheaper.
Right, exactly. They'll draft one. Did you see these guys run this weekend? Holy shiz! Oh. My God, these guys are big and they're fast. We are churning out like receivers. And this is the best receiver.
This is the best time I think receivers have ever been in the NFL and coming out right now. It is. I said it before. You need to rethink things when it comes to most important positions in the NFL. Receiver to me has gone all the way, arguably in the top 3. It really has.
I agree. And Xavier Worthy running from Texas, running a 4.21, and then he just kept on running. Did you see that? Did you see the 4.21?
Oh yeah.
That was like when he took off. You watch guys. I'm watching guys run all weekend at the combine, and you just see guys. And after a while, I could start. I start naming the times, and I got pretty good at it. I'm like, and I saw him going. I'm like, whoa! I don't know what that was, but that's the fastest I've seen today, and it ain't even close. I was like, but that's got to be 4. I said 4.25, and it was 4.21. I was like, holy shiz! Yeah, set the record. And that was a bust. And there was, all kinds of guys. So, yeah, Kansas City's going to go get their guy. We got our guy. And I tell you what, I've never seen Mike faster. I've never seen him in better shape. I've never seen him more comfortable. I've never seen him more competitive. This season, the last couple of years, since Brady got here, he upped his game tremendously. We've been talking about this for years. And he's just gotten better and better. And I think that was the best version I've seen of Mike Evans. And when I saw 2 years, 52, I was like, holy crap, that's awesome for the Bucs. That's awesome for the Bucs. Folks, we don't, I mean, this may sound negative, but it's more just about father time. We're not obligated to pay him when he's 34 years old and 35, like I thought we were going to be. Like, I thought we were going to have to eat 2 years of bad contract with Mike Evans just to get him for the next couple of years. Yeah. And it would have been worth it.
Yeah, it would have been worth it. That's the beauty of the deal is Mike gets paid. He gets the best payday he's ever going to get in the NFL here as he enters his 30s. And for the Bucs, you mitigate some of that risk because in the event, and you have to say it, it's like I don't think Mike's going to turn into this guy that I'm about to mention because Mike hasn't had the injury history like this guy did. But similar to how Julio Jones, when he turned 30, there was a direct, slide in his career. Yeah. There's always the event of that happening. If you look at the statistics, most of the receivers, they hit 30. Yeah. They hit a wall.
But Julio, the difference with Julio, Nick, and this is a great point you're bringing up. The difference with Julio is he wasn't practicing in his late 20s, and he was constantly injured. He's got 2 screws in his foot. He's had leg injuries hampering him for the last 3 or 4 years. Mike's had hammies, but not lately.
Right. To me, he is a very healthy and a very spry 30 years old. I've said it before. I know Chris is 3 years younger than Mike, but it feels like Mike plays younger than a Chris Godwin does because Chris has already had a major injury and he's been beat up. Let's just be completely honest about that, where Mike really has not lately. And Mike doesn't really take big hits either. Yeah. He did a good job earlier in his career, and that's how you have longevity in this game.
He's great at that.
It's the same thing, a guy like Tyler Lockett in Seattle who's so underappreciated. The guy's like 33. He never takes hits, and that's why he still plays at a high level. So there's something to that. But the whole point is that you mitigate the risk at 2 years in the event that something happens to Mike or he has a downside and he's not the same player. Well, you're only committed for 2 years. Yeah. So I think it's just a great deal all around. And hats off. Jason Licht is, I'm not in the business of ranking GMs, but that guy's got to be near the top of the list. Just year in and year out, he gets it done.
Yeah, that and the 2 years is shocking to me. Shocking to me. I didn't think, and it's interesting, and there's a huge signing bonus attached to it. TJ Reeves popped in here. And I think in Greg Allman may have mentioned this as well. What, $35 million up front that he gets in total this year?
If he put out here, like if they give him there's a possibility they give him a $1.2 million salary and a $25 million signing bonus. And then they can use 3 void years to spread out the cap hit. And it would only be $6.2 million plus the $12.2 million from his previous deal. So there's a chance you still get Mike under $20 million of a cap hit this year.
Unbelievable. I mean, that's per Greg Allman, right? Oh, you want to say
per Greg Allman.
Yeah, that is what a home run for the Bucs. I mean, you get Mike Evans and you don't have to guarantee him. I mean, what were we talking about? 85, 90 million guaranteed over, a 5-year deal with, it'd probably be a 3-year deal. And you don't have to do that. This is incredible. This is a huge win. And it's interesting. I'll be interested to hear why Mike chose that, because he could have gotten more guaranteed money, I would think. It maybe because he wants to hit free agency in 2 years. He's betting on himself. And because the cap is going to go up about $25 million a year, folks. And I mean, everybody was shocked this year when it went up $30 million. I keep telling you, it's going to go up commensurate to the TV deal that they've already signed. And that money goes up, and that money doubled their revenue over the next 10 to 15-year period. I forgot what it is. So the cap's going to have to double, and it goes up, and the revenue goes up every year. So the cap goes up commensurate 50% every year. So you're going to see if it went up, 25, 30 this year, it's going up another 30. It's going up another 30. Mike knows that. His agent knows that. So even, he doesn't want to be locked in at 20, even if it's 23 AAV every annual average, that's going to look like chump change in 3 years if he's still healthy, and just a top 25 receiver, he can make more than that. So he's kind of betting on himself, and that helps the Bucs.
And I think the other part to that, I really do believe the first 7 years of Mike's career, and you can throw Levante in there as well, I think is a big reason why maybe those guys have never asked to get maybe exactly what they're worth. They saw what it was like to play on a bad football team. And they lost for a while. And then they got to see what winning looks like. And when you win, it's not one of those things where it's like, the great ones always tell you this. When you win, it's not like, oh, I finally did it. Now I can rest. No, winning is contagious, and you want to keep doing it year in and year out, and the Bucs have done that for 4 years in a row.
Right.
You think Mike wants to jeopardize that at any point?
Exactly.
Him taking well above market value and resetting the record for a receiver or something like that, which who knows? Maybe that was out there in free agency. I don't know.
I don't think it
definitely
was.
Would hurt. It definitely would hurt the Bucs' chances of, even with the cap going up, to retain the pieces and continue to add a roster that they can try to get back to Super Bowl level.
It's interesting, about Mike, and I don't want to make this sound like in any way as a negative, but this is true, Nick, and you know this because you write for a national platform and On3. Mike is not considered a top 10 receiver. You see a lot of lists that come out. He's not on the top 10. Am I wrong? He's not.
That's fair.
He's not. And I don't get that. I don't get it. I don't understand it. But whatever. You can have your lists, however you want to make your list. He's a top 10 receiver to the Buccaneers, and the top, in terms of what he brings to this team and this community as well. And by the way, Glazers recognize that it brings value to them because they want their players to be active in the community and do great things, and they reward them for it. And that's something that needs to be said today and needs to be acknowledged. So let's do that. And here's the other thing that is huge. And I think this is the next chapter. Okay. Think about this. How many teams, first of all, have gone to the playoffs 4 years in a row? 2. The Chiefs and the Bucs. The only team in the NFC, the Bucs. 4 years in a row. So now what Jason Light has done, and this is hard to do. This is so hard to do in the NFL. Because look at the dips that Carolina took. Look at the dip that Atlanta's on. 6 years, no winning records. Even the Saints, okay? Look at the Bucs. 4 years of playoffs. Now we've reset. We got another quarterback who can take us to the playoffs. He just did it and won a playoff game. We got a receiver that stays in line. We got 2 receivers that are getting older. Okay. Slowly replace them. Probably draft one this year, maybe in the 2nd or 3rd round. That can help you this year, by the way. So now we've reset and we're still good. We didn't have to go in the crapper like the other teams did. Put some value on that. That's hard to do in this league, and the Bucs have done it. They ate and they did it by eating all the cap stuff that they ate last year with Brady. Okay. Remember I said I was mad at Brady for retiring because then we couldn't, double the cap, or we could have spread it out more. I'm glad we didn't. We still went to the playoffs, won a playoff game. So we reset by eating all that cap money last year, and now we're ready to go. We got cap money again. Cap's going up. We got a quarterback probably for the next 4 or 5 years that I think can grow with this team. If you're a Buck fan, this is a great day, because I don't think it's just Mike Evans. I think it's everybody else.
Yeah, and Tampa Bay, by the way, is a destination now for players.
That's right.
I think that's officially a thing. I mean, you've been covering this team for a long time,
despite the bugs in the shower, despite the bugs,
despite the issues that they that were put out there last week. I don't think the Bucks were always a big destination. Like, they would, when they spend in free agency, when they used to, even like preceding Jason Licht and even Jason's first year, they had to overpay to get average players.
Yeah,
in the building.
Very average.
And they're not doing that anymore.
Yep.
You're just not doing that anymore. To me, the Bucks, forget whatever you heard last week in the surveys. I do think the Bucks are a world-class organization. Yes. I do think players want to play for them now.
Absolutely.
I think that's been seen. And just again, I say it, I was always curious how the backside of Tom Brady, how it was going to look like with this team. And I mean, to me, they aced it. They've absolutely aced it. And to the point of what you said about the whole Brady cap hit thing, Jason Licht had to bet on the guys in that building, the veterans in that room, and their evaluations of players in the draft and all that stuff. And they bet on themselves essentially last year, and it paid off. And now they're going to be so set up for success in the long run. And again, the thing about the playoff thing, making it 4 years in a row, what is it, like 50% of there's like a 50% turnover usually, something like that in the playoffs year in and year out in the NFC and AFC, and they've done it 4 years in a row.
Yeah.
Like you said, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Hard to do, man. It's really hard to do. And once, look at your boy Cam Jordan. Oh, now that Brady's gone, they'll go back to being who they've always been. A playoff team, unlike you. Yeah. So tip of the cap. And did Mike take a hometown discount? I'm going to say, yeah, he did. I think he hits free agency. He gets offered a lot more money. I do. So I want to tip the cap to Mike Evans for doing that for the team. I think he makes more on the open market. Don't you?
I do. I think I think this is part of his greatness, more so than on the field and what he does in the community off the field. He's like the most selfless receiver you can probably find in the NFL. We got receivers that run this league who are, A.J. Brown is having to go on Philadelphia radio last week to defend himself that, like, I want to be here. Like, he has to, he feels like he has to chime into a radio station. He
certainly didn't act like it on the field. He can say whatever the hell he wants, but, actions speak a hell of a lot louder.
There's so many receivers that are sort of wired that way.
Yeah.
And Mike, for as great as he is, and he's a Hall of Famer to me if he retired tomorrow, anytime you're in the same conversation as Jerry Rice and Randy Moss when it comes to these 1,000-yard seasons, you're a Hall of Famer already. And the fact that he's never done that, again, it's so rare. I can't say that enough, how rare that is to get that from a receiver position that has that reputation for being the biggest diva on the field. And that's not Mike Evans.
Exactly. That's huge. I want to get to some of the comments because we love you guys jumping in here. We really appreciate it. We're not taking calls right now, so this is the way you can interact with the show. So we definitely want to give you your due, and we really appreciate you. James says, Mike Evans agrees. There's the numbers. Looks like Baker to follow before free agency starts. Awesome news. On Get Up, they all said the Bucks will not let Baker hit free agency. I agree. Well, we've said that for a while. Great news. Yes, indeed. Signed Baker, of course, tag Winfield. That's happening. I mean, it's all coming together, boys and girls. This is the first one. I don't know why people are still talking about Devin White.
Who?
I don't.
Who?
Exactly. I why are people surprised that the Bucks are getting rid of Devin White? He's not good. They don't want him. The front office certainly doesn't. This is not I don't know what people even
my team culture.
He's not coming back. He's not coming back, thank God. Rick with a nod to Stu Sternberg. Thank God the Glazers are comfortable spending money. Yes, indeed, Rick. Well done. Yes, they're very comfortable. By the way, that the interview we did with Tom Mullins on Friday got a lot of play. And if you have not seen the numbers on this Rays deal, it's not passing, folks. I'm going to tell you right now, it's not going to pass. There's no way the political people in St. Petersburg and in Pinellas, now that the real money deal is out there, it ain't gonna pass. Tomorrow, last day to hit the tag. Is it tomorrow, last day to hit the tag?
I'll look into that to get to verify it.
Man, you may be right because it is. God, it's March already. I do. Sometimes I keep thinking it's still February.
March 4th already.
Kathy, you guys keep bringing up center from comments out of Bucks camp. They will stick with Hainsey. I think that's probably misinformation, Kathy. So they don't, because they plan on drafting a center or an interior.
The tag deadline, by the way, is tomorrow at 4 p.m.
Okay, cool. Thanks for mentioning that. Yeah, so I sometimes, Kathy, you got to read between the lines, and I think you see, you look what's on the field, right? Hainsey was awful last year. Okay, not awful. Let's go with C minus D plus. You can do better than that. It's a key position. We need to do better.
And I just finished a whole day of watching the big men work out, by the way, and like receiver, offensive lineman is loaded this year.
John Hill, always asking me things off topic. Whose basketball scoring record broken past weekend was better than Caitlin Clark's? 4 years versus Pistol Pete over 3 years without a 3-point line, or LeBron James. Who?
That's tough.
LeBron, $40,000 is just to me, the $40,000 is more just a testament to how he played the other day and scored 19 points at 30.
I think that record's
going to over a game.
That record might sit untouched. Yeah.
Oh yeah. I don't. No, the money's too big. Guys are too soft. As much as I don't like LeBron's politics and all those things, you tip the cap, bro. He is just, as far as longevity goes and greatness for a long time in the spotlight, hard to be better than what he's done. Unbelievable. But Caitlin Clark is special. Just don't, Caitlin Clark. Did LeBron James change the game of basketball? Like fundamentally change it?
I think he more changed player empowerment in regards to the league.
Okay. Then that's changed. That's real change. That's a great point. I was thinking more just in terms of the game, the game of basketball. Like Steph changed the game.
Yeah. LeBron was a freakish athlete.
Yeah, but he did change the game in terms of player empowerment, which I'm not necessarily sure is good for the overall game.
Yeah, you can argue that, but that is something I think he did.
So, but Caitlin Clark has changed women's basketball. Like she has changed
women's sports.
Yeah. You're right. I mean, did you see the tickets for this game this past weekend?
It's outrageous. It was an event.
The get-in ticket was $600. That's NFL playoff
for
money.
A women's college basketball.
For a women's college, that was the get-in ticket. You wanted a good ticket, you were paying over $1,000 for a women's college basketball game.
And by the way, it dictated needing to be on Fox yesterday. Yeah. It needed not on FS1, not on FS2, not shoved somewhere on ESPN Plus. It needed to be on Fox, and it needed Gus Johnson.
Did it need Gus Johnson? I'm a Gus fan. I like Gus. Except when he's doing Colorado games. Yeah, he's changed culture. Like Clayton Clark has changed the culture. And I'm just not putting it on her because so many that came before her were part of that leading up to it. But there's going to be that one person that you say puts it over the top, right? And that's her. It's been, I mean, it's must-watch TV. It's more TV.
Exciting to watch that than it is to watch anything in men's basketball, both college and pro right now.
I have to agree. All right, so we're a little off topic there, but I did want to get to that as well. Pliability is a big part of Mike's routine, Kathy says. He's commented on the fact that he's learned to take care of his body since he met Brady. Yeah, that's why we mentioned that. You're absolutely right. And it's showed. I mean, it showed dramatically. And it'll be interesting to see, obviously Tom played into his 40s, quarterback, much different position than wide receiver. But Jerry Rice is the only effective, and I think to some degree Fitzgerald played till he was 38?
Yeah, and Tim Brown's another one who played a while.
Yeah. But Mike can, and if Mike does that, because in this contract kind of tells me that's where he's at mentally, because he's thinking, I'm going to make more money when I'm 33. So whatever. I'll cash in now. And as the cap goes up, I'll just keep cashing in because I'm going to play till I'm 40 years old. And I'm going to have 1,000-yard seasons probably till I'm 37. Okay, we're here for it. He's not going anywhere. unless, the Bucks completely melt down. Yeah. All right, let's take a quick break. When we come back, Matt Matera is going to join us from the Pewter Report. He was at the Combine all last week eating shrimp cocktail at St. Elmo's, so we're jealous. We'll chat with him about the Mike Evans deal and all the stuff he learned at the Combine. We are brought to you by the Jeeves Law Group, Jeeves, Jeeves, lawgroup.com. We are local, we are credible, and we get results. That's their motto, and they do. Scott Jeeves, great dude. Got a local office in St. Pete and Tampa. They're a small firm, but big enough to take on these huge insurance companies. They get great results, and they will make you a personal priority. Yeah, I've heard some ads from some others. They're like, "Oh, we treat everybody the same." No, they don't. The Jeeves Law Group is legit. Jeeves lawgroup.com. Back in 3 with Matt Matera. Stay with us. JP here from my friends at your local Synovus Bank, and I do mean friends, and I do mean local. One of the local managers in Tampa is John Acosta, big fan of the show, and I've known him for over 40 years. He's been in local banking since 1983. You talk about developing relationships. You don't stick around for that long unless you're doing things the right way and have a great reputation, and that's the focus company-wide at Synovus. Big enough to handle any complex international transaction, but small enough to answer the phone when you have an urgent question about your business or personal account. And for personal accounts, they have a very easy app that works great. You can do everything online. And for large or small businesses, you will get that personal touch and services to help build your business, taking your dreams and aspirations from the whiteboard to reality. We can make that happen. Let us show you how. For a get-acquainted meeting to open a business or personal account, just call John or go to synovus.com to find out where your local branch is.
All right, this is for all you guys who don't want to go to the gym and do 5,000 crunches. At Bay Area Modern Medical Center, you can get on the new True Body machine where you can reduce fat and tone up your muscle. It's like doing 54,000 crunches in just 15 minutes. Define your body as you see fit. True Body offers personalized muscle stimulation that delivers the equivalent of those 54,000 crunches in just 15 minutes. Just get in touch with them at Bay Area Modern Medical Center, BAMMC.com. Chris Lugo and the team over there will set you up on True Body and get amazing results. Non-invasive with comfortable and little to no pain and zero downtime. You can isolate and target those areas that you want to improve and treat multiple areas simultaneously. It's an amazing machine, so check it out at Bay Area Modern Medical Center, BAMMC.com.
JP here for the Geddes Gordon Real Estate Group and our good friend Jane Geddes. Folks, simply put, there is nobody like Jane. Jane is a former LPGA two-time major championship winner. She was also vice president of talent relations at WWE. She also has a law degree from Stetson. So if Jane can drain a 10-footer to win the U.S. Open and stare down Hulk Hogan in the boardroom, you want Jane on your real estate team to not only negotiate the best deal, but find you the perfect home or investment property. And when you work with the Geddes Gordon Group, you become part of the real estate family and get concierge services that include expertly staging, marketing, and preparing your home for sale. Advice on golf properties. Hey, you might even get some golf tips. Many of their clients become friends long after the sale or purchase is completed. It's all part of the deal. So if you're looking for that perfect home or investment property or trying to get top dollar for your home, go with Jane Geddes and the Geddes Gordon Group because there's nobody like Jane. Call 813-485-6808 or go to geddesgordon.kw.com. That's GEDDES Gordon.kw.com or call 813-485-6808.
Let's go! Right now. Back to the show on FanStream Sports.
All right, tactical faux pas, Nick. I took a bite, Rip. I thought we had one more spot. Our breaks are so short, I can't even get a bite of my lovely breakfast.
I saw you right before. I was like, you better finish up your chewing before we get back on this thing, and you missed it. You missed it.
Well, shout out to the lovely Ashley, though. A large iced coffee, way better than Dunkin' or Starbucks, that she makes fresh here. Makes her own creamer. Toasted, amazing breakfast sandwich, but with eggs, bacon, onions, fresh fruit, delivered to the studio. Who's got it better than me? Maybe Matt Matera. Got my dog behind me. Like Tally's here protecting me. Matt Matera from the Pewter Report joining me here. Sorry, maybe you got it better than me, Matt, but I don't know. I got a pretty sweet setup here, babe.
Yeah, you got an awesome setup. I would not challenge that by any means, but I think we all got it pretty great with the news that dropped this morning.
Look at you. Look at that. Look at that professional segue right there. Did you see what he just did right there? That was impressive. As we move right on to Mike Evans. And it was, we were just talking, Matt, there's so many legs to this. And I think, number one, the Bucs to me just reset. They don't have to go into a tailspin, that recovery rebuild period that every NFL team does, because Mike takes that, and that means Baker's coming back in my mind. So they just keep trucking. So that's number one. Number two, I think we got a hometown discount. I think he makes more money on the open market. I don't know why he did it to just 2 years, but he's betting on himself to go free agency again. That's great. That's great for the Bucs. That's great for everybody. And we get Mike Evans for 2 years. I mean, this is a win-win-win-win-win, right?
Without a doubt. And yeah, those were a couple of things that I was thinking too. First of all, wow, only 2 years? Wow, yeah. Only $26 million per year. It still makes him the fourth highest paid wide receiver in the league. So it certainly gets Mike what he wants, which was to get paid this offseason, but also at the same time, kind of like what you were just saying, it doesn't break the bank for the Buccaneers with everything else that they want to do in free agency, which really is just re-sign their own guys, which leads us to Baker Mayfield. And yes, Baker wants to get paid, but he wants that continuity. He wants to work with great players. And if Mike didn't re-sign with the Bucs, it would be easier for Baker to say, well, if I come back to the Bucs, yeah, you still got Chris Godwin and Rashad White, but Mike was his top guy last year, as Mike has always been the top guy. And if there was another team out there that had a top wide receiver one or even a better team around him, it would make more sense for Baker to go there. So everything that the Bucs did, bringing back Mike Evans, who hopefully will be a Buck for life for the 2 years, for the amount of money. I mean, it's just a fantastic job once again by the Bucs front office. And I mean, it's a great way to start a Monday. Mondays typically suck, but when you wake up to that type of news, you can't help but just have a smile on your face.
And to how this relates to Baker Mayfield, do you think this makes it more likely that maybe they get something done with him before he touches free agency? Or do you think maybe this gives him even more leverage, perhaps, because now they have the receiver and he knows that, okay, well, somebody's got to throw that guy the ball. And so now he makes himself a little bit more desirable on the market. What do you think there?
I believe it helps expedite the process of trying to re-sign Baker Mayfield, because when we spoke to Jason Light and Todd Bowles, but mostly in this type of discussion, the conversation with Jason Light holds a little bit more water. Before the Mike Evans signing this morning, I went going in thinking they were going to let Mike and to a degree Baker go around, talk to other teams and say, hey, this is what we're getting. Can you match this number? But after speaking to Jason about Mike and Baker, it very much felt like wasn't necessarily, hey, go find your number and then we'll match it. It was, hey, we're not going to let you leave the building. We want you to sign as quickly as we can get you to re-sign. So it happened with Mike this morning. I think that's the goal for the Buccaneers, once again, is to try to sign Baker before free agency gets going. And there's obviously a big reason for the Bucs to do that. If you re-sign him, there's no bidding war. There's no risk of the price going up and up and up and up. Now, if I'm the agent of Baker Mayfield, I'm saying, let's still go to free agency. You can still go to the Bucs at one point or another. So we'll see how it plays out. There's obviously a ton of loyalty between Mike and the Bucs, and history way more than Baker and the Bucs, even though everyone loved kind of like the relationship that they had last year. He still has only been there for 1 year. So it's in the best interest of the Bucs to re-sign him before free agency. Do I necessarily think that'll happen? No. But I think the odds went up more today with the move from Evans.
I think it will. I think he signs before free agency. You make great points about why do it. I'll tell you, this is why I would do it. Number one, just simply put, I don't think Mike signs unless Baker says I'm signing. And if Baker says I'm signing with the Bucs, well, I guess he could hit free agency and then just come back and sign with the Bucs. We can determine his value and they can play around with it. But there would be a chance where the Bucs go, look, that's too much for us. We're not interested. And then Mike's sitting there, so I don't think either side would do that. And here's the thing. Matt, Baker's done such an unbelievable job of rehabbing his image, right? He is,
Absolutely.
I mean, he is, and he's a smart dude. Like we've dealt with him now for a year. We know this. He's a really smart dude. And not only from an X's and O's standpoint, but he reads the room. Like he's got a really good feel for emotional intelligence, as I would call it. He understands where he's at and where he's been. And I think if he goes and chases the money, it looks bad. It looks really bad. And then Mike would be like, he told me he was going to sign here, and now he's chasing the money. It doesn't fit. That just doesn't fit his narrative of where he's at right now. What fits the narrative is Mike just took a hometown discount. I'm going to do the same. And we're going to get Winfield done, and we're going to get Tristan Wirfs done. We're going to get everybody done. I know it's not saying they're going to say it out loud. Yeah. Mike's not going to go to a microphone. Sure. The PA doesn't like them doing that. we can see the numbers. He took a hometown discount, or at least he bet on himself for another 2 years. There's a lot more guaranteed money out, and that's what guys normally chase. So I think with all that in mind, Baker might hit free agency, but I doubt it. I think he signs.
Yeah. I agree to a degree about Baker just kind of, you're absolutely right, rehabbing his image and things of that nature. And everyone has talked about how he certainly got humbled with what happened in Carolina and LA and everything like that.
Sure.
That's absolutely true. And on top of that, I would kind of add, he gained a lot more self-awareness of like, maybe he's not always just the top guy in the room, but at that same point, Baker will still always be the guy that wears his chip on his shoulder, wears his heart on his sleeve. And that's great for a football player. And I think it also kind of affects him in negotiations as well in free agency. If he wears his heart on his sleeve and he's like, man, at the end of the day, I just want to be a Buck. I want to be playing with Mike Evans again and Chris Godwin, and I get to work with Liam Cohen. And the offense will be a little bit different, but not crazy different from what it was last season. At the end of the day, like, yes, you want to get your money, but I'm a firm believer both for athletes and in my own personal life, peace of mind. Peace of mind, I think, is like so much better than
quality of life.
Yeah, quality of life. And like, oh, well, you're going to take $5 million less, but you're in a way better situation and with the team that you've already ingratiated yourself with.
Still
like,
$30 million a year.
Exactly. I don't think it's like the worst thing in the world.
It's not $5 million less. It's $30 million a year.
Right. Yeah, exactly. It's exactly, is the glass half empty or half full? That's pretty much like how you want to look at it. And I don't think there's any shame in a player being like, I took a little bit less, but to be in a way better situation.
Right.
You see it all the time with like old veterans that go ring chasing, and no one faults them for that in any sport. Like, I don't know. I think it's just an overall like misconcept of players and athletes that you just have to be so greedy and immediately get everything that you want.
Some guys are that way. Some guys aren't.
Sure. Yeah.
All right, so let's we kind of move it forward. Mike signed very, I think, generous deal to the Bucks that allows them to do a lot of different things. So what do you like the next few days? What happens in terms of the rest of the free agents? What do you think is going to happen?
Yeah, it'll be interesting with Antoine Winfield Jr. because we asked Jason at the Combine, are they going to use the franchise tag on him? And Jason is leaning towards not using it. He says it's good to have. It's a good tool to use if you need to do it. But it kind of sounded like that they are working on getting closer to coming up with a deal because for everything we said about Baker, I almost think it's more important to re-sign Antoine Winfield Jr. before you get to Baker Mayfield, just in terms of his importance to the team and specifically that defense. So curious to see what will happen with Antoine Winfield Jr. I would be surprised if he got to free agent. He's not getting to free agency because worst case scenario, they would franchise tag him.
Which they have to do by tomorrow.
Well, yeah, they don't want to, but it sounds like they are working on a deal to make sure that they get that done. I would be shocked if Antoine Winfield Jr. left. There's always the talks about an extension with Tristan Wirfs. Now, Tristan's quite busy at the moment. I believe he's got a baby on the way that is due in March, so it could be any day now for sure. So Baker's still the top priority along with Antoine Winfield Jr. Levante David, a little bit on the back burner, but we all know they love Levante and they'll take care of him. So, yeah, still kind of the big names. And then free agency itself, we're not going to see any big signings of new players or anything like that. Just certain pieces that can go and fit depth and things of that nature on this team. But Jason Light said all along, our goal is to re-sign our guys. And then whatever happens after that.
Yeah, and I think we all would assume that does not include, because we've had some people comment about Devin White, and I think that door is pretty much shut. I have to say on that.
Who's thinking that Devin White's coming back? Like who?
Beyond me, but
the guy who runs Get Live 45 website. I mean,
perhaps
beyond him. Song that is a good song.
It is a good song. Yes.
I'll miss that about Devin.
Yes.
I did want to get your take though on because last week obviously they released Shaq Barrett, and we expected that to happen. We all love Shaq, especially the hard times he's been through and everything. Do you think there's a potential reunion there in free agency on a low-term deal, obviously, and low money? He can come in as a depth player. It seems like it's still a spot that he would like to be at.
Jason Light left that door open. I don't think that's a possibility for this season because I think he kind of just got to rip the Band-Aid off, wipe the slate clean. But with that said, a season from now, looking at that outside linebacker room, JTS is going to be on the last year of his deal this season because the Bucs aren't going to give him the fifth-year extension for first-round picks. Anthony Nelson is a free agent after this season, so the Bucs most likely are going to draft an outside linebacker. But after Yaya Diaby and this new outside linebacker that comes in, you got some young guys like Marquise Watts and Jose Ramirez, but that's an undrafted free agent and a sixth-round pick. Would not shock me if the Bucs a year from now, if they get Shaq Barrett on a league veteran minimum, something like that, bring him in to be a great mentor. Maybe he's got something a little bit left in the tank now that he's at that point will be a couple of years removed from that Achilles injury. They still have a great relationship, the Bucs front office and Shaq Barrett. Jason said that Shaq was calming me down more than I was calming him down when he had to go and release him. So there's a great relationship there.
Yeah.
Wouldn't rule it out a season from now, but not this upcoming year.
All right. What else did you guys learn at the Combine? I know it's a huge book. I've been reading all the stories and listening to your podcast. There's a lot of good stuff in there. Let's start with I thought it was interesting, the offensive lineman, because I think what is this? Powers Jackson is the guy
Jackson
from
Powers Johnson.
Jackson Powers Johnson. It's got like 3 first names or 3 last names.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. But just watching him at the Combine and watching his film, that dude, man, he moves people and he doesn't move. He sets the pocket. And I love that. And every quarterback loves that. You can step up in the pocket. You can be so much better. And for Baker, he needs that space, right? To see. He needs that space to see.
He's a small guy.
Yeah. So when you have a guy that can anchor inside and give you those extra 4 yards that you can see and step into, it's a huge difference. When guys are in your face, man, you can't play quarterback, especially Baker. So I just can't. That to me is where they need to go with their first round pick. Where if he's there, that's the guy, right?
I firmly believe that if Jackson Powers Johnson is there when the Bucs are on the clock, he will be a Tampa Bay Buccaneer. He met formally with them at the NFL Combine. And just real quick, just because a player meets formally with the team or doesn't necessarily mean that the Bucs are going or any team is going to draft that guy. Kalijah Cansey did not meet with the Bucs in any capacity in Indianapolis last year, and they drafted him. So sometimes there are smoke screens and things like that. I do not think that's the case with Jackson Powers Johnson. He's a guy, as you said, a mover. He will smash skulls. He's physical. He's that attitude guy that you want, the Ryan Jensen that they're trying to find, with all due respect to Robert Hainsey. And, Baker, one of the things he does is he likes to dap up his lineman and then smash his helmet into the offensive lineman that he's high-fiving. I can kind of see him doing that with Jackson Powers Johnson. That's not a prerequisite for someone to get drafted by the Buccaneers. But I firmly believe if he's there with that pick, Jackson Powers Johnson will be the guy unless a certain edge rusher falls or things of that nature. But I think offensive line is really where the Bucs are going to be honing in with that first-round pick or second-round pick.
Yeah, and I think even if if he's not there in the first round, I don't think there's probably another guy you would take there unless maybe a Graham Barton, obviously, who could kick the center. I tell you what, though, they were talking a lot yesterday on the broadcast. This is the best offensive line class in X amount of years, and just strictly for vibes only, Matt, because why not? The guy that struck my eye for a later round pick is Frank Crum. JP, I don't know if you got a chance to see Frank Crum. I'm actually going to, out of Wyoming. I'm going to put him up here, JP, on the screen real quick so you can just see this man. And please tell me if this is not a Jason-liked guy right here. Hold on.
Frank
Look
Crum.
at that.
Oh, yeah. Oh,
I know a Jason-like guy when I see it. And I know he's a tackle. I don't know if he can
party
kick
in the
inside.
front, party in the back. That's a whole lot of party salad
I'm all
going
in
on
on
there.
Frank Crum, and I'm
that.
all in on a Borderlini as well with the sweet mullet that he had and the athleticism he showed.
Yeah, so we're drafted by mullet size now. Is that what we're doing?
That's how I'm doing it for vibes.
We need that as an official combine number. We got hand size, we got broad jump. We need mullet length is what we need now. Okay.
The only thing he's missing is being a redhead because we know Jason Light loves his redheads.
It's a little tinge in there. So I mean, it's a blondie thing, but there's maybe a little tinge of red in there. And he's small school. Yeah, I like it. Absolutely. How about your man Xavier Worthy running a 4.21?
Unbelievable. That was the record, right? That was
that beats Ross's record. Yeah.
Unbelievable. I mean,
although Dion ran an unofficial 4.21.
Prime time. Still making noise all these years later as an athlete.
Yeah.
Despite being a coach. But I mean, wide receiver is very interesting outside of I don't think the re-signing of Mike kind of changes too much with the approach for the Bucs.
No, you got to get a young one.
Another wide receiver. Yeah, they still need to get younger. Chris Godwin's a free agent after this season. So, it's like, all right, yeah, you re-signed Mike, but what about the rest of the room if it's just Mike and these other guys? And I want this year because the Bucs have gone the route of late round draft pick. Trey Palmer's an example of that last season. And they've done that before. And it's Trey Palmer and a lot of like undrafted guys. And, Russell Gage isn't going to be here. I would like the Bucs, and I get it, they have to address other positions, but I would really like to see them take a wide receiver, maybe not in the first round, of course, but in round 2 or 3 or something like that, and kind of still build out that wide receiver room if they're not going to really address it in free agency. And it was interesting. The wide receivers they met with, Jalen McMillan from Washington, Keon Coleman from Florida State, and Brian Thomas from LSU. The interesting thing with Jalen McMillan and Brian Thomas is they weren't necessarily the top guys on their team. Obviously, McMillan with Washington, he was injured a little bit, but you got Rome Odunze, the other receiver
Neighbors.
there. Yeah, Polk and Neighbors from LSU. So, I don't know. I kind of like the idea of drafting these guys that will come in and say, hey, I don't need the ball all the time because they're kind of used to that situation.
It's a good point.
Mike's going to get the football. And Keon Coleman, I asked him a couple questions at the Combine. One of them I asked, what were you most proud of the Florida State team last season? He was short and sweet, but he said 13-0. Go Noles. And I don't know. I got a good laugh at that. So
that's great. There nobody ever says 13-1.
No.
Nobody will ever say 13-1. That team was 13-0.
Yep.
And the exhibition at the end of the season does not count. They were 13-0. Good for him. Good for him. I was watching the tight ends yesterday, and I know it's Brock Bowers and everybody else, but I want a bigger, more rugged tight end. And if you see anybody there, it's 3rd, 4th round, Worthy, something like that, or maybe somebody that sneaks up. What do you think?
It's interesting because the Bucs, I can see them going both ways at tight end because they do need a more stout, like receiving type of tight end. And they did speak to Jaheim Bell, if we're sticking with Florida State, spoke to Jaheim Bell. But at the same time, they also do need that physical run blocking, stud that, all right, Kate, I can kind of focus on being a receiver and a guy that's going to get the job done. Because Todd Bowles even said, we need to do a better job blocking in that tight end room.
Big time.
Board. So
big time.
I think the Bucs are going to double team it in a sense of draft either a blocking tight end or a receiving tight end in the draft and then try to find a veteran tight end in free agency to bring in. For example, like Gerald Everett, I don't know if the money will work because he's projected to get like $8 million this year, but Gerald Everett, former Rams tight end, was with the Chargers last season, has worked with Liam Cohen, so he knows that offense. I think that's really important. Or a guy like Mike Gesicki, who was with the Dolphins for a while, was with the Patriots. Gesicki can't block for anything, but he's a pretty good receiving tight end. So maybe you sign a guy like that and then find your blocking tight end in the draft. There wasn't too many names that necessarily stood out to me in terms of like physical blocking guys, but obviously Jaheim Bell was was on the Bucs' radar, and if they decide to go that route, I know obviously a lot of Seminole fans will be happy.
Exactly.
This is not exactly a Buccaneers need. It would be more of a wish. But one of my favorite guys from this whole weekend and even the Senior Bowl was Braden Fisk, just to keep it local, obviously.
Yeah.
I know a lot of people said, like, third round, fourth round, whatever. I mean, at this point, what is stopping a team from taking him somewhere, not in the first round, but, in between 33 and 50? Like, I don't know. I look at the athleticism. I look at the tape and everything. He just screams to me top 50 player. And I think he probably has to get more love, you think, as we approach the draft.
Absolutely, Nick. He is shooting up the charts with both, like, everything that he's done testing. You watch his tape, what he did at the Senior Bowl. I got to speak to him at the Senior Bowl as well, and he's extremely articulate and well-spoken. And I think people kind of forget at times that college players, not everyone is, like, as polished when it comes to doing interviews and things like that. It takes time for a lot of guys. Jamel Dean was a perfect example of that, of, like, when he first got drafted, his interviews were, like, kind of awkward, but then obviously as you get more comfortable around your surroundings, he got much better. But Fisk, like, right out of the gate, obviously can be a stud in the middle, stopping the run, has some pass rushing moves as well, and he tested great. He's meeting with a lot of teams. I would not be surprised if I saw a mock draft the other day that had him going late in the first round. So I would not be surprised at all if he ends up maybe a late first round pick, but more of like a second round pick for sure. I can see it.
Ran a 4.78.
Yeah,
292 pounds, which I think he was down light for the combine. He'll play over 300 pounds. Ran a 4.78, had 4.5 tackles for loss and 3 sacks in one game against Louisville in the ACC championship game. The guy was a
did that game matter? I think it was.
I think it did. Well, not to the playoff committee, but to many. Many of us it did. All right. Any other observations from the combine that kind of struck you?
Running backs, they didn't really meet formally with too many. There was just 2, and one of them was Ray Davis, the Kentucky running back that obviously has a relationship with Liam Cohen. Quarterbacks as well. Thought it was interesting they met with J.J. McCarthy, even though he's probably going to be gone in the first round. Other quarterbacks, they met with Michael Penix, Mike Pratt, formerly Michael Pratt, now Mike Pratt, and Spencer Radler. Yeah, so wouldn't be shocked if Pratt ends up being like a late draft pick by the Bucs, because they do need to address the quarterback situation outside of just Baker Mayfield. So curious about that. Curious about Michael Penix.
He's got some Brock Purdy in him, don't you? Do you think Mike Pratt got a little Brock Purdy in him? Lots of starts. Yep. Not a cannon for an arm, but super accurate. Great win is a winner. I mean, just knows how to win.
Beat Caleb Williams in a bowl game. So definitely has a lot of experience. Wouldn't hate that as a late round pick for the Buccaneers, and especially if they're going to move on from Kyle Trask after this year. So just interesting to see the quarterback room, what they were thinking about at the combine. But those are a couple of things that stood out. Oh, and one last thing. Georgia defensive backs. I know Todd Bowles has familiarity. Yeah. They love Georgia defensive backs. They had 3 formal meetings with 2 safeties and 1 cornerback, including Tyke Smith. Wouldn't be surprised if we see a Bulldog in Tampa Bay this year.
Second round pick with one of those guys. They get Jackson Powers Johnson 1 and one of those Bulldog defensive backs 2. That's a good haul. Yeah, and then one edge rusher, but
they do need an edge rusher.
You can't get everything. Can't get everything. All right, partner. Great stuff as always, Matty. We'll be listening on the podcast and at pewterreport.com. Appreciate you.
Thanks a lot, guys. Always great talking to you.
All right, we'll take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to talk some hockey with Erik Erlendsson. The Bolts trade deadline for the NHL is Thursday, I believe, Thursday or Friday. So the Bolts have one more game against Calgary. They got some time off. So what are they going to do? Is Brisebois going to make a move today? Get somebody in here with all the practice time they have? We shall see. We're brought to you by Bay Area Modern Medical Center, BAMMC.com. Get your nutrition right. Get your testosterone right. Get your immune system right. Get your body right at Bay Area Modern Medical Center. They have the True Body machine as well. Hook you up to that. Get rid of those fat deposits that are so hard to get rid of around the belly for the guys, other places for the ladies I won't mention. But True Body really, really works. So check that out as well. Back at 3 with Erik Erlendsson. Stay with us.
JP here for the Jeeves Law Group, Jeeves. Call for a free case evaluation, 888-9-JEEVES. That's 888-9-JEEVES. We're local, we're trusted. The law firm brings over 80 years of combined legal experience focusing on clients in Tampa Bay, the state of Florida, and national class action cases. If you're injured, get that free case evaluation, no cost to you. The Jeeves Law Group's focus is on auto, truck, and motorcycle accidents, as well as class action and consumer protection law. Scott Jeeves is a board-certified civil trial lawyer and a certified circuit court mediator practicing in the Tampa Bay area for over 30 years. You hear him on the show all the time. Great guy, big Gator fan, and great for the community. The Jeeves Law Group is a highly skilled team with years of experience that will apply their skills, expertise, and knowledge to assist individuals who have been in an accident with compensation for damages, lost wages, medical expenses, pain and suffering, and property damage. Get that free case evaluation, 888-9-JEEVES. That's 888-9-JEEVES.
JP here for the Gaddis Gordon Real Estate Group and our good friend Jane Gaddis. Folks, simply put, there is nobody like Jane. Jane is a former LPGA two-time major championship winner. She was also vice president of talent relations at WWE. She also has a law degree from Stetson. So if Jane can drain a 10-footer to win the U.S. Open and stare down Hulk Hogan in the boardroom, you want Jane on your real estate team to not only negotiate the best deal, but find you the perfect home or investment property. And when you work with the Gaddis Gordon Group, you become part of the real estate family and get concierge services that include expertly staging, marketing, and preparing your home for sale. Advice on golf properties. Hey, you might even get some golf tips. Many of their clients become friends long after the sale or purchase is completed. It's all part of the deal. So if you're looking for that perfect home or investment property or trying to get top dollar for your home, go with Jane Gaddis and the Gaddis Gordon Group because there's nobody like Jane. Call 813-485-6808 or go to gaddisgordon.kw.com. That's GEDDES Gordon.kw.com or call 813-485-6808. JP here for my good friends at Italiano Insurance, and they did it again. Once again, Italiano Insurance stepping up with the best customer service. I was in a bind. My old insurance company, my auto insurance, jacked up my rates, so I called Charity at Italiano Insurance, and she stayed till 9:30 at night until she got my insurance done. And guess what? She searched all these companies for me. I didn't do the work. She did. Saved me $1,000 on my annual premium. $1,000, folks. That's real money. And that's what you get at Italiano Insurance. Great customer service. And here's another note for you, by the way, with hurricane season up. 40% of people in Florida are underinsured. That means if you have something happen during a hurricane and you need replacement costs, you're going to get 40% less than you deserve. Can't let that happen. Call the folks at Italiano Insurance and get them to help you out in both those regards. It will save you money and keep you insured properly. That's 813-877-7799. Great folks in the community, been doing it for over 60 years. Italiano Insurance, 813-877-7799.
Let's go. Right now. Back to the show on FanStream Sports.
This is The Strike. 102.5 WHPT, HD2 Sarasota, Tampa, St. Pete.
Forgot the legal ID there. We don't want to jump on over that on the Big Strike 102.5. Lock that in, by the way, on your FM radio dial. Just do the search thing, and it comes up right after 102.5 The Bone. Lock us in there. You get great lightning content. You get our show live from 10 to 12. You get Greg Linnelli and Dave Mishkin live from 12 to 1. So, and lots of Erik Erlendsson content on there as well. As the Double E's joins us right now from lightninginsider.com. What's up, Erik? How are you?
I'm good, gentlemen. And Nick, how's my favorite former soccer player?
I am doing well, Erik. Haven't played soccer in a long time though. I'm completely washed. I'll put it down.
Yeah, I can feel that.
I'm coaching now 11 and under basketball. So, I don't have any Nick Geddes on my team, but I got some good players, and it's a lot of fun.
Oh, I had a blast
most of the time. Yeah.
I coached my youngest from 4, and he's 27 now. So, and up until COVID year, I coached my other son. Now I'm reffing, so I enjoy that as well.
Oh, you ref?
I ref soccer. Yeah, it's great.
Wow.
God bless you, Eric, for
love
doing
it.
that
I
work.
love
Yes,
it. It's
God
awesome.
bless. You do. I mean, you don't have parents giving you death threats at the end of matches?
It's not that bad, but I have been threatened. Yeah, for sure. I had, and believe it or not, this was a U9 game. So we're talking 8, 9-year-old kids.
God.
And it was an academy game. So an academy in soccer, there's a build out line, right? So there's a midfield stripe, and on either side, there's a build out line. Players are supposed to stay behind that until the ball comes out of the box. That's also the offside line.
Right.
So parents are telling me it's offside, it's offside. I had to turn to him one time. I said, please stop. I know what the offside is. It's the build out line, not the midfield stripe. So I had one big parent go, you better watch yourself. He thought I was talking directly to him.
Watch yourself.
Watch yourself.
I have to explain the rules to these people. Yeah. All right. Let's talk some Bolts. Big win on Saturday night. And, the more I look at it, that shorthanded goal by Taylor Mott was just, it was huge. I mean, you're down 10 minutes left. You're down 3-2 to a team. You're looking at your 5th straight loss at home. The last 3 being to Ottawa, Buffalo, and Montreal, which you counted as all 2-point home wins. I mean, there was a lot going south at that point, and Tyler Mott gets the shorty, and then they win it in a shootout. That to me was a huge 2 points, given where the Bolts are in the standings right now. Your thoughts on that game?
Massive 2 points. Massive 2 points, especially when you throw in the fact that they're down 2-0. They're down 3-2 in the third period. They were even down 1-0 in the shootout heading to round 3.
Right.
And Steven Stamkos scored that clutch shootout goal, and then Victor Hedman secures it with the extra point. But they needed it. They needed it bad. It doesn't matter how you get it. It certainly wasn't the prettiest. Their first period was one of the worst first periods I've seen them play in a long, long time. They recovered in the second, got the game tied. But that's the problem in the NHL. When you fall behind by 2 goals, you can come back. There's no doubt about it. But you have to work so hard to get there. And all it takes is one shot to put you right back where you were. Yeah. And that's kind of what happened. So to see Mott race down the ice and finish that, I mean, he's not a particularly great goal scorer, but listening to him talk about that play, and the first thing he does is look behind his shoulder. He's looking for the back checker. Well, he sees Luke Glendening. And what's a hockey player's first instinct? Pass is the first instinct. And he saw that and he said, no, I'm going to shoot it. And he just delivered a perfect shot right through the 5-hole. And big moment for this team to make sure that they hold on to this playoff spot, because they've got a weird schedule right now. They don't play until Thursday, Saturday, and then they don't play again until Thursday after that. So all these teams are going to start making up those games in hand. So by the time they end this homestand, we'll get a better idea of where they sit.
And you mentioned, I mean, the performance, not exactly, the greatest, but at this time of year, it's about grinding those out, and they did that. But it seems like it's been a common theme all year. It's like anytime they turn over the puck or make one too many pass, it always feels like it's going the other way on this team. It's just been one of those years, and I feel like Cooper has tried a lot of things. He said a lot of things, and it seems like they don't get much consistency with their play. And it's like, at what point do we have to accept, you think, they are what they are? And if you combine the overtime losses, I think they're like 33-29, and it's like almost average, and they're like +1 goal differential. Is this just like an average hockey team at this moment, you think?
I think they're above average. I know what their record says, and Nikita Kucherov is having an MVP year, and so they have elite talent. Certainly they don't have the depth, so that certainly brings it down a little bit. But I think if they eliminate self-inflicted wounds, they're a much better team. You look at a lot of their losses this year, it's not because they've necessarily been outplayed. It's because of where they turn the puck over and how it ends up. I mean, obviously Andrei Vasilevskiy is not having an Andrei Vasilevskiy year, coming off the back surgery and everything else. But I think this is an above average team that can be even better if they just stop turning the puck over in bad areas of the ice. It's always right around the blue line. And when that happens, it goes the other way. That Ottawa game was the perfect epitome of what plagues this team. 3 of their 4 goals were scored off of odd man rushes, directly off of lightning turnovers in bad areas of the ice. They have to. I know we're 3/4 of the way through the season, and I keep saying they have to clean it up, and it pops back up every now and then. But I think if they can clean that up, they're going to do themselves a lot of favors.
Yeah, it even popped up the other night in the Canadiens game as well. They turned the puck over in their own zone, and it's quickly in the back of their net. And you can't just make passes right in the middle. Kick it to the outside, and In early in the season, especially, right, when every mistake they made ended up in the back of their net, and that's kind of been rearing its ugly head the last few games. But I think there's a case to be made that they are making mistakes, but they are starting to defend better. Is that fair to say? And that's in the end, when you're 25th in goals against. I mean, that's got to get better. And we've got to see in these final 20 games they climb into the top 12 in that category. Not for season wide, you can't. The numbers are too big. But I just in 20 games remaining, they just have to defend better. Is that fair?
Absolutely fair, and that's what it starts with. I mean, we can look at the goaltending numbers of both Vasilevsky and Johansson, and yes, save percentages below 900. Good chance you're not going to do much, but both the Seattle's goalies last year had sub 900 save percentage, and they reached round 2, so it can be done, especially with Vasilevsky's pedigree.
Right.
But it all starts to me in what are the type of chances you're forcing your goaltenders to face. When you're facing 2-on-1s and breakaways, I mean, we're used to watching Andrei Vasilevsky make those saves, but he is human. And he's been more human this year than most other years, and he hasn't come up with those stops on as consistent of a basis as he has, the last number of years. So if you defend well in front of him, I think their structure in the defensive zone has gotten better. You don't see as many wide open looks off the side of the net or whatever. They're still occasionally there, so there's still a lot to clean up. But you're not finding those. They're really doing a much better job of protecting that middle slot area. And when pucks get to that area, they usually have somebody there to kind of clean things up. So they have been better in that aspect, but they've got to be even better.
Trade deadline's coming up, and I think we were expecting maybe the Lightning to be active, especially with the new money that they have to spend here. I saw Elliot Friedman. I think he said that Noah Hannafin, who's one of the big guys out there, maybe expressed that he wants to play in Tampa. And I've been looking at some of the trades going on. The Tanev one, notably to Dallas, and I think they got a second-round pick, a prospect, and I think a later third somewhere in there. We know that the Lightning don't have the most to give up. What do you think a potential deal, if it is Hannafin, looks like?
It's tough because the Lightning just don't have the capital that they've had in years past to pull off some of these moves, right? Like they don't have a first this year or next year. They don't have a second this year. They don't have a big prospect pool. There's certainly not a ton of top-end guys. You have Isaac Howard, who was a breakout star for Team USA at the World Juniors, and he's having a good year in Michigan State, with just won the regular season Big Ten title in NCAA hockey. Ethan Gauthier, who was their second-round pick that they got from the Ross Colton trade last year, is having another really good year. They're pretty high on him. But other than that, you don't have a ton of high-end prospects. So do you start looking at players on the roster? Do you look at a Nick Perbix, let's say, 25-year-old right shot defenseman? Everybody wants right shot defensemen. Do you look at players that are on the roster? Because they just don't have – I mean, are you willing to give up another first-round draft pick in 2026? I mean, that's the question you have to ask yourself. But we see this a lot. When a player such as Hannafin picks the team he wants to go to, he doesn't have total control over it, but he has some say in it. Usually it gets done. Usually the teams find a way. There'll probably be some sort of condition, whether he's able to sign an extension or not. Again, tough for Tampa Bay to do because of the cap situation that they have going forward. So there's a lot of question marks over. But just as we saw with Marty St. Louis, who only had one team that he wanted to go to in 2014, they found a way to get it done. And it'll obviously involve the first and Ryan Callahan coming back to Tampa Bay. But usually when these things happen like this and a player has a preferred choice, there's a mutual interest, obviously, on both sides. It usually finds a way to get done.
And is there any other move that you see? I mean, this team does need some secondary scoring. That could be a need. And there, when you get rentals out there, the price isn't too high, right? Because it's a 20-game thing, and these teams are out of the hunt. So, you maybe you get somebody for not a huge price. Is there anybody like that you might see on the market?
Well, the one thing we've learned with Julian over the years, whoever they end up with is somebody we didn't think that they were out looking for.
Yeah,
right?
that's true. Yeah.
Barclay Goodrow and, Brandon Hagel. I mean, these guys, Nick Paul, they were never sort of linked to these players in any way. So another thing with Julian is he very rarely goes into the rental market. I think David Savard is the only guy that he's acquired that didn't have some sort of a term on his deal, whether it was an RFA expiring contract or, had still had years left on their deal. So it's hard for me to think that he's going to go back or will go into the rental market this year. But again, they don't have the capital, so you might have to kind of look at that area if you want to try and improve this team, down the stretch here.
I think it's easy to overlook some of these guys on the roster that are having really good seasons because of what Kucherov is doing. But I think we're starting to see, Brandon Hagel has really broken out. I mean, he broke out last year, but I think he's been on a completely different level this year, especially just the overall scope of his game from a two-way standpoint. And obviously having him locked up long-term, just speak to what he's done this year and how important he's been, especially with the fact that they don't have that secondary scoring as they had in years past.
He's been a big catalyst here the last month or so. You look at his numbers, he had that 14-game scoring streak, and his energy level, his commitment to every shift that he's on is infectious. It resonates through the bench, and you can't have enough of those type of guys. Not the most skilled guy, but he scores 30 goals. Right? He's not the biggest guy, but he works in the corners. It's those type of things that players like Brandon Hagel, their stock rises because of the way they approach the game. It's like every shift their hair is on fire, right? It's incredible to kind of watch this guy work. And you're right. I mean, look, Braden Point's probably going to reach 40 goals this year, but who's going to notice it, right? Because Nikita Kucherov has 40 more points than Braden Point does. So there is a lot of overshadowing, but don't underestimate the contributions that Brandon Hagel has made, not just on the score sheet, but in some other areas as well. Main penalty killer as well.
I think when we point out that Kuch is so far ahead, it's not to diminish what these other guys are doing. It's to say how good Kuch is. It's like this is a historic season that we're watching, and it just continues to get better. When he gets 1 point, you're kind of like, whatever. If he doesn't have a 4-point game, you're like, it's not even worth it. It's been nuts, but he does need some help. There's no question about that. And I think that's where this team can get better as well. Even with 20 games to go, you're seeing it from Mitchell Chafee, by the way. I think he's earned that ice time, and playing with these better players, he's starting to produce some more. I love his game, and I think he can give the Lightning a lot more than he gave us, earlier in the season. Would you agree?
Good size, obviously, that always helps.
Yeah.
But the one thing that every time you talk to John Cooper or anybody else in the coaching staff about him, it's the work rate, right? He's got the MO of a Lightning player. Do you have good hockey IQ, and do you compete? He competes. And the one thing that every time John Cooper is asked about Mitchell Chafee, it's his board battles. How are you winning your board battles? Are you winning your board battles consistently? And that's the big thing with him. And you can tell he knows how to get to the net. He understands how to get to those areas. And you look at the goals he scored, that's where they've been. They've been, 5 feet outside of the blue paint. And it's not easy to get there. It is a skill to get there. And he's done a fantastic job of doing it. Again, not anybody you would have counted on, but he fits so many of the criteria of what the Lightning usually bring into the organization, and the fact that he was undrafted. Not undersized, undrafted, but he was undrafted. And, sometimes players like Mitchell, who have to work so hard to get their opportunities, work even harder when they get it.
Is it fair to say, Eric, that they're not getting nearly enough from Steven Stamkos at this point? I know he had 4 points in the month of February. He's got 24 even strength points all season. Plus minus can be so taken out of context sometimes, but for what it's worth, it's minus 24. It's the worst of his career. It's the worst on the team. Where do you think his game is right now?
It dipped. There's no doubt about it. But then you look at his contributions on Saturday, right? He had a great pass to set up Braden Point. He's been physical. He's kind of helped trying to set the tone, doing some things that you would expect from a captain. And maybe that shootout goal helps him. His shot has not looked as on target as we're used to seeing, right? He takes the shot, and it seems to be going right into the goalie's chest most times. He's not picking those top corners that we're used to seeing from him, especially on the power play opportunities. But what you have to like about Steven is that he knows his offensive game has not been anywhere near where it needs to be the past month or so. He is doing some other things to try and help the team, and that starts with the physical tone, right? He did that in the Jersey game. He did that in the Islanders game. 2 huge wins that this team needed 2 weeks ago. So he's doing a lot of those other things. And you're right, plus minus, it can be an indicator. It's not the tell-all, do-all of defensive stats. And then you factor in the number of empty net goals that the Lightning have allowed this year, which is more than usual because they have more losses than usual. That kind of skews that a little bit. But there's no doubt he probably looks at that plus minus and wishes it was better.
All right. So, Eric, as we move forward, at one point in the season, we're like, okay, we're going to make the playoffs. And at this point, I'm like, it's kind of 50-50. I think I heard you, or maybe it was Mitch, say that you think that the Lightning have to go 13-7 in the final 20 to make the playoffs, which is that's very doable. It's very doable, but that's a lot. It's 13-7 is a better record than you've played all year long. By when you're talking numbers, by a bit. So where's your thought on that? And we're going to know a lot more in 2 weeks when all these other teams make up these games. But as it stands right now, are they going to have to play that kind of hockey to win, to get there?
Well, I think they've understood that they have to play playoff hockey now to get there, right?
Yeah.
And certainly hasn't been pretty at times. The one thing too, we all looked at the schedule and said, hey, it's pretty soft the second half of the year.
Yeah.
But sometimes those games are dangerous. They're more dangerous because you've got guys who are fighting for jobs, and they have a situation where there's no, they can put a little bit more risk in their game because the consequences aren't going to hurt your team in the standings. And, sometimes you get that. And, you talk about playing down to the competition. I think they played down to Montreal's competition, even though the Canadians played the Panthers really hard a couple of nights before.
Mm-hmm.
The Canadians are who the Canadians are. They have to play with a more determined effort each night. Look, this homestand ends with the Rangers a week from Thursday. Then they go to Florida after that. Certainly not an easy place to win nowadays.
Mm-hmm.
And then they have a West Coast trip. And that West Coast trip has not been as difficult as it has been in past years, especially with the California teams, Anaheim and San Jose in particular.
Yeah.
Big stretch here coming up. We're going to find a lot about this team by the time we get to the end of this month in that West Coast trip, whether or not they're going to be a playoff team.
Well, never forget the stinking Panthers weren't even going to make the playoffs until the last day of the season last year, and they damn near won the cup. So, and if there's a team in this league that other teams don't want to face in the playoffs, it's Tampa Bay. And, I didn't ask you about Vasilevsky. It's kind of worn out, but I think, everybody asked me about it. And my feeling is, look, it's a back injury. And Vasilevsky is a workaholic. And did he come back early? There's a good chance he did, because that's how he's wired. But nobody knows how these situations go. It's very hard to, you want to push your rehab because you want to get back. But so it's an unknown. Is he 100%? I don't think he is. Is he going to get there? Yeah, it takes time. I mean, he's 2 months post to back injury, back surgery. I mean, it wouldn't be feasible to say he's back to being the greatest goaltender in the world 2 months after back surgery. So, it's like ACLs take about a year. I don't know what back surgery takes, but it's a part of your nervous system, everything you do, his reaction time is obviously the number one thing in terms of a goalie and positioning. So no, I don't even think it's reasonable to say he should be back at the top of his game. Will he be in a month and a half, 2 months when we get to the playoffs? Maybe. I just think it's an unknown. And I think what we do know is if Vasi is not playing at an elite level, the Lightning are not going to win a cup, because that's just been this team's MO. And I don't think that's unfair to say about the team or Vasilevsky. It's just my observations from watching this team and him over the years. Is that fair?
It's very fair. I mean, any goaltender is going to be a backbone of a team, but him in particular, because I mean, how many times even last year or the year before, when they were an elite team, would the Lightning have a slow start and they wouldn't have their skates under them, and they give up 3 or 4 grade A chances in the first period? Vasilevsky stops them all. They go on and win the game 3-0, or 4-1 or something like that. He is the backbone of their success. And if he can get to that level, who's to say they can't make a deep run? They don't have the depth for sure that they've had in past years, but I have people make comments to me on social media. Oh, that was a kind of win on Saturday. It's better to be sellers at the deadline. No, this team is in a playoff spot, and all it takes is to get in. The NHL has more parity than any other professional sports league, certainly in North America.
Yes.
You get upsets all the time. We know that certainly here just 5 years ago watching it. And, then 2012, when the Kings won the Stanley Cup, they won it out of the 8th seed when the 5, 6, 7, and 8 seed all won in the first round.
Yep.
You get in, you can win. And if you can win, you try and get in.
Absolutely. 100%. All right. Tell them how they can get lightninginsider.com, the best website to follow Lightning hockey.
Yeah, that is the website, lightninginsider.com. There's 2 plans. There's a monthly plan for $4.99. There's a yearly plan for $40. Price hasn't changed in 7 years, even though
It's inflation, Eric. You got to raise the prices, buddy. Let's go.
I've thought about
Should
it.
be 50
I've thought
by now.
about it. But that is the website. Obviously, the Lightning Radio Network with Greg and everything else. Did you enjoy the internet going out the other night in the building, by the way, JP? Oh,
I was doing my bit, and they're like, we don't have a mic, JP, so don't worry about it. I'm like, all right, well, I'm gonna stay here and be ready in case something happens. I got guys climbing on top of my desk, literally. It's like, excuse me. I'm like, no problem, do what you gotta do. And it's like, and we're like going there like 10 seconds. I'm like, we got it. And they're like, nope. Like 2 seconds left. They go, we got it. Go. I'm like, oh
yeah.
But yeah, it's crazy. But you did a great job with the post game show, by the way.
Thank you.
So appreciate that. And yeah, it was a little bizarre, a little bizarre. Hey, and you know what? Might have to get used to this. Let's just put it that way. We might have to get used to this, folks. It's just get your pen and paper ready. Get your. Do we have analog phones anymore? Smoke signals. Get a CD
like we're in the
radio.
dark ages.
Yeah, you might just be prepared. You never know. Get your food supply. All right, thanks, Double E's. Appreciate it.
All right, boys, be well.
Yeah, that was good. All the monitors in the building were out. We had the jumbotron working.
How does that happen in 2 Lightning games? Was that 2 in a row? Going back to the Philly one, that whole disaster.
Yeah, the lights went out. That was a transformer, which I thought Aldi Huge Arena had backup power, which I guess they did, and they had to switch to the backup power. But our Wi-Fi network went out in the building, so all the TVs were down. But for some reason, we had the jumbotron working, but a lot of our systems are Wi-Fi based, including my microphone. So we had to switch that out, and I guess we had enough backups where we could go to it. But it's so interesting when you're sitting behind the scenes watching all this happen. I mean, we got a $20 million setup in Lightning Vision. I mean, and everything. I mean, just the number of cables alone that are strung through the roof is just mind-boggling. And then then your Wi-Fi goes down. It's like, okay, now what do we do? And to see these people figure stuff out on the fly the way they did. I mean, they're literally ripping up cables in Lightning Vision in the studio and cutting and pasting stuff together. And I'm just in awe at what they're doing. And they're like, yeah, go, you're good. Okay, here we go. So yeah, they're amazing. But
yeah, all I know is you mentioned like the whole pen and paper type deal, and I'm just sitting here like I write for a living.
Yeah.
And I can't tell you the last time I legit wrote a sentence using a pencil, a pen, used a legal pad. If you ask me right now to find a notebook, I don't even know where I'd find it.
As I say to Peter,
I know you're old
down.
school. You're old school with the notes over there, and I just put everything in my phone. Like
I got
everything.
I got literally probably 7 or 8 legal pads. The ones that I don't know why I keep them. Ashley's like, why do you keep those? I'm like, I don't know. You hoarder. I'm like, yeah, I could probably I'm not going back and researching them, but I put a date on every show, and this is my show sheet, and so yeah, I do a lot, but I think it's smart. It's smart to like have backups. It might be smart to if I can't use this, where do I go? I mean, like with your phone, I don't think any of us are getting landlines anytime soon in our house, but it may not be a bad idea. It might not be a bad idea because you're wired. It's not Wi-Fi. Everything else is Wi-Fi. But hell, I'm sure the phone system, even with your home phones, I think are probably in some way tied to the Wi-Fi system.
I mean,
the cellular system.
Remember the whole thing that happened with AT&T? That taught me a lot about the world.
Yes, exactly.
that day.
Are you AT&T?
No. I'm the Verizon guy.
Yeah, but it's interesting when one goes out, it affects everybody else too.
Right.
Because I think we even had a guest that was on AT&T. We couldn't get. I think the chief was.
Yeah.
So we couldn't get in touch with him. So it affects everything and everybody. So be prepared. Get that CD radio. I'm gonna send one to my kids. So when it all goes down, at least I'll be able to. Hey, we're on Channel 5. When it all goes down, hit Channel 5. We'll be there. So we can talk to her. I think. Listen, and we say that jokingly. There's a lot of people doing this stuff. Hell, what's his face? Zuckerberg's building $1 billion survival bunker. Yeah. Yeah, what chance do the rest of us have? Really, I mean, think about it. What chance do the rest of us have when they? By the way, do you want to be around? Do you want to be around so you live 3 months longer than everybody else? Well, okay, whatever. I don't know. I don't know if I want to be around for that, but we'll take that as it comes. But I don't know if I'm starting to like go a little old school on some other stuff just in case you need it. And you need to learn how to cook.
Yeah, well, at least
what happens when you can't get fast food?
Yeah, well, at least you lived in times where like it's probably like picking up and riding a bike and doing all those things. And for me, it's like I feel like I still need to Google how to do some of these things. And if I don't have Wi-Fi, then I have no Google. Then I'm just screwed.
Yeah. Be prepared. Be prepared. All right, we'll take a break. When we come back, we're going to talk to Tampa Bay Trevor Sikkema of Pro Football Focus, their lead draft analyst, who was at the combine as well. We'll hit on some of those position groups that the Bucs might be looking at and get his take on the Mike Evans deal as well. In case you missed that, Mike Evans signs with the Buccaneers 2 years, $52 million. Much less time and money than we thought. So good for the Buccaneers. We're brought to you by Italiano Insurance. Great folks over there. Charity helped me out so much on my auto insurance claim that I had recently. I didn't want to wait in the line and call them and do all the things that need to be done. She did it for me, which was great because we had a couple of issues and she handled them. So that's worth the money. And you don't pay any more to be with Italiano, by the way. You pay less because they shop your insurance around, get you a better rate. And then when things pop up, they'll help you with it. 813-877-7799. It's old school customer service, folks. And that you don't find it many places, but you'll find it at Italiano Insurance. 813-877-7799. Back in 3 with Trevor Sikkema. Stay with us. JP here for my good friends at Italiano Insurance, and they did it again. Once again, Italiano Insurance stepping up with the best customer service. I was in a bind. My old insurance company, my auto insurance, jacked up my rate, so I called Charity at Italiano Insurance, and she stayed till 9:30 at night until she got my insurance done. And guess what? She searched all these companies for me. I didn't do the work. She did. Saved me $1,000 on my annual premium. $1,000, folks. That's real money. And that's what you get at Italiano Insurance. Great customer service. And here's another note for you, by the way, with hurricane season up. 40% of people in Florida are underinsured. That means if you have something happen during a hurricane and you need replacement costs, you're going to get 40% less than you deserve. Can't let that happen. Call the folks at Italiano Insurance and get them to help you out in both those regards. They will save you money and keep you insured properly. That's 813-877-7799. Great folks in the community, been doing it for over 60 years. Italiano Insurance, 813-877-7799. Start the new year with a new diamond from the Gold and Diamond Source. It's still engagement season. Where better to get that special ring than the Gold and Diamond Source? Of course, I just got mine there. I'm engaged. You should do the same thing. Let's go. Gold and Diamond Source has the largest selection of engagement rings in the country. A literal jewelry superstore with 30 times the inventory of any normal jeweler. And if you have a loved one or a special person in your life who has a birthday this month, maybe you have an anniversary coming up, you can get 15% off the January birthstone, which is garnet, as in garnet and gold for all your Seminoles. Celebrate that mythical national championship. And it's the Gold and Diamond Source's 40th anniversary. For the past 40 years, they have taken pride in offering only natural diamonds formed over billions of years from the Earth's incredible forces. And gold prices are at an all-time high. Now's your chance to turn your jewelry box into a cash machine. It's the perfect time to trade in your broken or unworn pieces for something new and stunning. It's the Gold and Diamond Source, 3800 Omerton Road, always online at thegoldendiamondsource.com.
JP here for the Jeeves Law Group, Jeeves. Call for a free case evaluation, 888-9-JEEVES. That's 888-9-JEEVES. We're local, we're trusted. The law firm brings over 80 years of combined legal experience focusing on clients in Tampa Bay, the state of Florida, and national class action cases. If you're injured, get that free case evaluation, no cost to you. The Jeeves Law Group's focus is on auto, truck, and motorcycle accidents, as well as class action and consumer protection law. Scott Jeeves is a board-certified civil trial lawyer and a certified circuit court mediator practicing in the Tampa Bay area for over 30 years. You hear him on the show all the time. Great guy, big Gator fan, and great for the community. The Jeeves Law Group is a highly skilled team with years of experience that will apply their skills, expertise, and knowledge to assist individuals who have been in an accident with compensation for damages, lost wages, medical expenses, pain and suffering, and property damage. Get that free case evaluation, 888-9-JEEVES. That's 888-9-JEEVES.
Let's go. Right now. Back to the show on FanStream Sports.
All right, welcome back to the JP Peterson Show, brought to you by the great folks at Synovus Bank. I was just walking down to the arena the other day. My good friend John Acosta's branch is right down there downtown at Synovus Bank. It's a big bank with a local bank feel. All the folks that work there have been in the local business, banking business for a long, long time. So a lot of these banks change names, but at Synovus Bank, it's a lot of the folks you've been dealing with for decades here in the Tampa Bay industry. It's a big bank with a local bank feel. At Synovus Bank. Head on in there and tell them JP sent you. All right, let's welcome in a longtime friend of the show, Trevor Sikkema, lead NFL draft analyst for Pro Football Focus, Tampa Bay Trey, TRE on Twitter. He was at the Combine all last week doing hits for the NFL Network. What's up, Trev? How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing good, JP. Appreciate you having me on, as always.
Well, appreciate you still coming on Tampa's favorite sports talk show. We appreciate that. You're a big time NFL Network guy now. And you're looking good.
No, of course, man. Can never forget the roots. Can never forget where you come from. So no, I love still doing stuff like this, and I always will. So it's great to catch up with you.
Thanks, man. I appreciate you. What was your biggest takeaway at the Combine overall?
Man, we went into the Combine week, I think, just understanding how good this wide receiver and offensive line class could be, and it really manifested. I mean, we got some serious athletes in the trenches. I mean, not as much. It's not as deep on the defensive side of things, but even then, man, at the very top, guys like Braden Fisk, guys like Byron Murphy at the defensive tackle spots. I mean, what we saw from Dallas Turner, what we saw from Jared Verse, like these guys who were still at the top of the defensive trench class really showed out. And then on the offensive line, man, it just felt like Elise Fuaga, Joe Alt, Troy Fontenot, like it was just one after the other. These guys were doing crazy stuff on the field. They were looking fantastic, and then the testing as well. And then, of course, wide receivers, man, I think it goes without saying. We had somebody break the Combine record for the fastest 40 of all time, and it's Xavier Worthy. But even beyond him, A.D. Mitchell from Texas to his numbers, Ricky Pearsall from Florida, his numbers, Brian Thomas Jr. from LSU, Romo Dunze from Washington. And that's without Marvin Harrison Jr. and Malik Neighbors even testing, who might be wide receiver 1 and wide receiver 2 in this class. So I think we went into this week believing that these classes were strong, and they absolutely lived up to the billing.
And before we get into some of these other these standouts and observations, I'm curious, as somebody who does this for a living, covering the draft and making player evaluations, for those who don't know, how much does the Combine play a role in your personal evaluation of a player, and even like the Senior Bowl tape? What is like the order of importance, or how do you wrap that all into one?
Yeah, so it's a great question. Game tape is king. Like game tape is absolutely the number one biggest piece of the puzzle, if you will, when it comes to painting the picture of these guys and their prospect profiles. So, you have to see everything on tape. And the Combine's a lot of fun. I think that we see a lot of these numbers and we like to, ooh and ah and freak out like everybody else. And I do too. I'm just a part of it like everybody else. But when it comes to going back and saying, okay, what do we make of these numbers? A lot of times the Combine is simply there to reaffirm what you have already seen on tape. Right. Because let's face it, if a guy runs really fast in Indianapolis with no pads on, no context, no movement on the field, just a straight line, if he moves really fast and you don't see that on tape, well, then he doesn't really know how to use that speed. And you could say to yourself, all right, well, there's more left in the tank. There's more sort of untapped athletic potential, which is a good thing, but you got to be able to use it. You have to be able to use it. And so a lot of what we see in Indianapolis has to show up on film. So a lot of that's really, really important. The Senior Bowl and the Shrine Bowl, those are important as well because it gives you an opportunity to put some more tape out there and put the pads on one more time. And what I like the most about those all-star events, because it's all, I think, key parts of how you evaluate these players. You have them in their college offenses and the schemes that obviously are putting them in the best position. It's putting the team in the best position to win games, but it might not be putting you in the most advantageous NFL positions. And so, I use this example all the time. You look at Quinyon Mitchell, who might be the top cornerback in this class. He might be CB1 off the board. He had 2 fantastic years of tape as a corner for Toledo, but never played in press coverage. Like very, very few snaps of coverage in that press coverage, man coverage alignment. And so when he got to the Senior Bowl, the very first thing they did is said, all right, go line up right in front of the wide receiver on the line of scrimmage. Like, let's see what you can do here. Let's see, is this a weakness of your game, or did they just not ask you to do it because of their team? Well, he proved, no, I can do this. He was still as shut down as a press coverage corner as he was an off coverage corner. So those are a lot of the questions that kind of get answered. The measurables, very, very important too. You look at a guy like Washington offensive lineman Troy Fontenot, who the broadcasts are going crazy for yesterday, and they should. I mean, he was fantastic, but there was a lot of talk of him maybe not really having the length to play left tackle because he's a shorter player. He's only about 6'4", but he shows up and he's got 34.5-inch arms. So that's 70th percentile. So all of a sudden it's like, whoa, okay. Now this totally changes the conversation. We thought we had a really good interior offensive lineman, and he still could be that. But now you have a lot more faith in him surviving a tackle or being able to kick out the tackle or whatever it is. So that's kind of a long answer to say a lot of these things matter. You don't want to totally freak out about the numbers and base everything that you have to know about this prospect or around the numbers, but it all kind of weaves into itself with the tape as the center of what the rest of these numbers and measurements mean.
Trevor Sikkema joining us from Pro Football Focus. That's a great answer, by the way. Thank you very much for that. And a lot of it also is, and as Jason Light once said early on in his career, he drafted, more on numbers and things like that, and didn't necessarily look inside the player as much as he should. And that's what these interviews are all about, right? Where you can sit down one-on-one with these guys and talk with them, and something I'm sure you've done as well. And I myself, when I get to see guys that come in here, I don't get to see them until they're drafted and they get here, and you interview them and you get a feeling on them one way or another. So how big of a process is that, just getting to know people on a personal basis?
Well, I think that every coach and general manager would tell you that's the most important part about the combine, right? Because of what I said, the tape is already there. Like you already know whether guys are athletic or not when you see the things on tape, because what kind of an athlete they are when the helmet, the pads, and the cleats come on, that actually matters most anyway. So I think that teams would tell you the most important part about the combine is getting to know these players, starting to know them, figure out who they are, what makes them tick, who they are personality-wise. Do they mesh with the rest of the guys in your locker room? Is it somebody that you easily gel with? And so that's a huge part of the process, because I think it also sets the stage for the top 30 visits, the guys that they bring in. And I think that, people look at these top 30 visits that every NFL team gets, and they go, oh, they wanted to bring him in to kind of like work them out, like get them on the field with the coaches. And I mean, there might be a little bit of that, but mostly it really is just, hey, you're bringing these guys down to your facility. You're having to meet the other coaches. You're having to meet the other front office members, maybe some of the other players, and you just see how they interact, some of the questions that they answer, how they answer these questions. And again, it's just the personality part of this is so important. You talk about all the time. You look at these draft guys who were drafted in the top 10 or the top 20 or even number 1 overall who go on to be busts. Well, normally you don't miss on the talent. Like you're not taking a guy number 1 overall because you didn't see something special in them in their tape. Normally when guys don't work out, either they're not a fit on the team or they're just not a fit with the personality. And that goes into it a ton. And I think that you're right. Jason Light does such a good job now of meshing what the Buccaneers are with the players that they could potentially bring in. And I think that as a general manager, he's such a great talent evaluator, but he is also very clearly a great judge of character. Like he is great at the people part of this as well. So it's a huge, huge, huge part of what Indianapolis really means for these NFL teams.
In terms of the Bucs picking at 26, who are a couple or a few or whatever of your best bets you think for what they might do there with that pick?
Yeah, there's a lot of different options that they could potentially have. I mean, you look at some of these edge rushers. I look at a guy like, for example, Darius Robinson from Missouri. He's not the fastest, most explosive guy, but he's big, he's strong, he's played on the interior, he's played on the edge, and I think you listen to that guy talk. I listened to him talk for 60 seconds at his podium, and I was like, okay, I want this dude on my football team. He's just very genuine. He's got that like some guys really talk about versatility because they're coached up to do it.
Right.
They've got these agents and they've got these people who prepare them to answer these questions, and they're like, oh, would you rather play this or this? And they go like, well, I think that I could play everywhere, and it's kind of the the easy answer, right? It's the answer
Right.
that you're supposed to
Right.
give. But you listen to a guy like Darius Robinson, and he lists off all the different techniques that he played at Missouri, and he basically just said at the end, he's like, dude, just give me a pair of cleats. I don't care. And for him to say something like that, paint it a little bit more colorfully, to just say, like, dude, give me a pair of cleats. I'm going to go play football. This is what I love to do. Like,
Right.
you can tell that he's very, very genuine. So I think he's somebody that's on their radar. He's a guy who tested really well in Chop Robinson from Penn State, an electric athlete as an edge rusher. I think is somebody else who could be on their board there. If they want to go interior offensive line, I know they'd love to get their hands on Troy Fontenot, but he's just absolutely not going to be available there at the back end of the first round. Maybe a guy like Graham Barton, I think could make sense, the left tackle from Duke, who I think is going to kick inside a little bit. He could play center. He could play left guard. I think he's kind of an option for them. And then corner is kind of a wild card. I don't know how the corner class is going to go. I don't know who's going to end up being available there at the back end of the first round. But I think that's something for them to keep their eyes on too.
You say wide receiver and offensive line are big in this draft, and I think those are two needs for the Buccaneers. And even though Mike signed today, let me get your take on that, by the way. Evans signing, how does that set up the rest of free agency, the draft, everything? As I think it does set up a lot of different things.
Yeah, no, I mean, I completely agree with you. I think that there were some mock drafts that I saw out there that had the Bucs taking a wide receiver in the first round. And
right.
I've always been very hesitant on that just because I think that Mike is very clearly wants to be a Buccaneer for however long he plays. I think this contract really showed that, right? Because if he wanted out, now it's not like he took pennies on the dollar. They paid him a lot of money to come back. But I think that he's somebody who, if he was going to leave, it would have been this contract, right? Because he would have been in extremely high demand. He could have basically had his pick of any contender in the NFL that he could have wanted to go to. The Bills, the Chiefs, these teams that are up the top of contending for Super Bowls. And so this, I feel like, would have been the contract that he would have left. And so you look at Evans, and you say, all right, well, he's probably around for another, I know this contract's 2 years, but let's say maybe 3-4 years. You got Chris Godwin as well. They're not going to forget about him. I think he's going to stick around. They're going to want him to stick around. You draft a guy like Trey Palmer, who was able to play well last year. I think he'll play even better this upcoming year. So I can't see them focusing on wide receiver too hard with their premium picks this year. So I think that is an option for them. But given the fact that Mike re-signed for the money that he re-signed for, they've got their receivers moving forward. So I don't think that we're going to see them pick one too early.
I want to ask you about some of these quarterbacks, and obviously Caleb Williams dominates a lot of that conversation, and we've been hearing for the last year and a half, the word generational has been thrown around on him, and I personally said I think that that's a mistake to just throw that around on some of these guys. We all know what Caleb is good at, but as you've dived into the film and the whole process, what, if anything, what's his major flaw or anything that you look at that you go, okay, he's not perfect, and how big of the gap do you think there is between him and some of the other guys?
Yeah, I very comfortably have Caleb Williams as the top quarterback in this class. I think that people look at Caleb and they think that he comes from this Lincoln Riley, gimmicky offense that's not going to work in the NFL, can't go through progressions, can't really run an offense, and it's just not true. I mean, he is so much better of a post-snap processor than he gets credit for. I mean, this is a guy who truly does, when he gets the structure and the offensive line in front of him to be able to go through progressions, he does. And he does it very, very beautifully. And I think that he also has a great feel for the pocket as well. Now, I think there's some context with USC when it talks about his weaknesses. I think that, one, he fumbles the ball too much, regardless of what the offensive structure was, regardless of the offensive line in front of him, no matter what, he fumbles too much. He cannot fumble the football this much. He's got to be much better at ball security in that regard. But people also bring up, the time to throw. And they talk about how it's in the mid threes. His time to throw average is something like 3.21 seconds, which is just astronomically high for an average. I mean, the only quarterbacks in the NFL over the last couple of years who have had time to throw averages above 3 seconds is Justin Fields and Lamar Jackson. I mean, Lamar gets a pass because of what he does as a creator, as an MVP caliber type of a player. And Justin Fields, on the other hand, is just somebody who reads the field slowly and cannot get to his next progressions and where he needs to throw the football quickly enough. So those are the two sides of the coin. Are you an MVP caliber candidate, or are you somebody who can't really run an offense? And I think Caleb is much more towards the Lamar side of things when it comes to hanging on the ball a little bit too long. When you look at plays in which he was not moved off of his spot, right? So plays in which the blocking actually held up for him. His time to throw was average. It was 2.6 seconds. It was right there with every single other quarterback in this class. It was average what you want for a quarterback. The thing is, he was pressured a lot, and I think he realized that his defense was so bad that if he didn't make a big play, then his team probably wasn't going to win the game. So I think those are bad tendencies that he'll probably carry over into the NFL, but I don't think it's anything that's unfixable with him, and that's why I've got him as my clear QB1.
You don't have any concerns about his lack of maturity at all? I don't necessarily like the leader of my football team, jumping up in the stands and crying in mommy's lap. I don't know. I don't know if that's.
I really don't have any issues with it. I don't, because the tangible, people who have been around him a lot, those sources within Oklahoma, within USC, we haven't really heard a lot of negatives. It's okay. So yeah, he's a very outgoing dude. Obviously there was that clip, of him good jumping into the stands. He painted his nails, with a certain message to the team that he was going up against. Like I get it. Like, people are kind of jump on that because he is an outgoing player in that regard. I think he's a fiery competitor in a lot of ways, and I think that anytime you're outside the box, you're going to rub people the wrong way. But I think the part that means the most to me is the actual tangible kind of sources that I have heard from is that people love him at USC and at Oklahoma. And to me, that matters more than, the rumors of, does he not want to play for the Bears? Does he want like equity and all this kind of, those to me, those are just rumors, right? Those were things that really haven't been proven. And, I think his dad has said a couple of those things, but it's not like he has. So I'm not really too worried about that stuff when it comes to Caleb.
And I think when it's all said and done, there's going to be a lot of guys in this draft who probably overplay their draft position because how deep it is at some of these spots. But it might be hard to nail down one guy. But is there a guy that maybe is later in the draft, at least after first round, that you're betting on is probably going to be one of those guys that outplays his draft position that you would bank on that?
Yeah, I mean, I really like Max Melton, the corner from Rutgers. He is somebody who I liked his tape a lot going into the year. I had him as CB5 going into this season. I didn't feel like anybody else was really relatively close to where I was when it came to ranking him. And he had a little bit of an up and down year, but Rutgers doesn't have the best secondary. And, when you're kind of on an island out there, it's tough to really grade super well. But then I thought he had a really nice Senior Bowl performance. Absolutely blew up the combine when it came to the athletic testing, and I'm all the way back in. So I think that he's probably still going to end up being a day 3 pick, but he is somebody who I've got at the tail end of my top 100 who I just think is absolutely going to outplay wherever they get drafted. I think the same is actually, now that I'm thinking about it, the same I could say for Jonathan Bullard, the corner from Georgia. This is another dude who I listened to his podium for 2 minutes. And I could have told you, yep, I want this dude on my football team. Like, comes from a great football program, plays pissed off, wants to be the best version of himself he can be. And I think you saw that over the last couple of years at Georgia.
All right, he's Tampa Bay Trey. You can get him on the Xbox at Tampa Bay Trey. That's TRE. He's lead draft analyst for PFF. And also, hashtag 3 sides minimum when we eat barbecue. Those would have to be mac and cheese, baked beans, and a good slaw. A good slaw is hard to find, but that would be my 3. What are your 3?
So I would say mine is either mac and cheese, baked beans, and coleslaw, or if the collard greens look real good, I normally switch out the coleslaw for collard greens. So it's some combination of that. But I like where your taste buds are at there.
Yeah, a good piece of corn on the cob too. If it's braised nicely, and highly buttered, that's also a good. You can never mess with that. But yeah, your favorite barbecue. What was your favorite place in Indianapolis? You go to St. Elmo's. You do the horseradish cocktail sauce for the shrimp cocktail.
Oh yeah. You got to do it every year. You got to do it every single year. And fortunately enough, PFF has a company get together at St. Elmo's every single year. So we have a little get together there. So I make sure that I get my built-in shrimp cocktail there. So I love Indy, man. I really do. Especially first 2 days that we were there in Indianapolis. Normally it is bitter cold.
I know.
But the first 2 days we were there, the high was 70. And
Nice.
I was living life up there. So, yeah, I think it's a great city to host the Combine. I know it's only guaranteed to host it for one more year next year, but I'd be sad to see it leave, mainly because, like you said, it's got a lot of great steakhouse.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Thanks, Trevor. Appreciate it, buddy.
Appreciate it, JP. Anytime.
All right. That's good stuff there. Good stuff there. Maybe I'm back on the Caleb Williams train, or maybe not.
I know.
I don't really care about the quarterbacks at this point because it doesn't involve the Buccaneers.
Yeah.
Except down the road. And I do think I think they might draft one in the I think the Brock Purdy experiment is going to get a lot of these guys that never got drafted in the 5th, 6th, and 7th round.
That doesn't. But how many examples do we have of that? And a lot of it comes to opportunity. Some of those guys may actually be really good. They just don't get the opportunity.
Yeah.
You just don't know. But
yeah, exactly. Like the kid from Tulane,
Oh, I've been saying I'm really high on Spencer Rattler.
Yeah.
Well, just as a talent, and I would
remember he was the can't miss #1 overall pick. Remember when he went
2 years ago?
Yeah. So I'm going to wait to see who's good as far as quarterbacks go because it really doesn't matter. I think Jaden Daniels is going to end up being the best of the bunch. I think
he's my favorite, but I definitely wanted to hear it from Trevor about Caleb Williams because again, everybody gets so much of their information. I feel like from these shows on TV and everything.
Exactly. I don't know the kid. I've never met the kid. I've never interviewed
coming
him.
from some of these like evaluations. So when you see someone who's obviously dived into probably every game that he's played, every throw, it's good to know. Have that in my back pocket.
Yeah, it's hard, I think, to also extrapolate quarterbacks coming out of the Pac-12 because I just defensively I don't know how good it is. There's not that many great defenses in that league for the most part. It just and you can say the same thing about Michael Penix. Michael Penix has 2 NFL receivers, as does Jaden Daniels, by the way. So sometimes it's hard to. I'm not going to say it's easy to play quarterback, but when you have 2 NFL receivers who can get open and compete for footballs, you kind of just put it in the vicinity. Now I watch Michael Penix play, and his ball placement is just ridiculous. It's incredible. I still don't understand why he's not a day 1 pick in slam dunk. And I know a lot has to do with the medicals, but
anybody
I
haven't been
can
able
get
to get anybody to tell me like a true thing against him other than the medicals.
That's it. I mean,
maybe the age, I guess, but just tell me in between, what does he not do well on the field? That's the one thing that I haven't really been able to get out of most people.
I mean, I think I heard somebody the other day say he didn't do much in Indiana. I'm like, they were winning games when he was there, and they don't win a lot before he got there or after. So, I knew that. I know that much. I think the kid's got a lot of special in him. I really do, and I like him the way he throws the ball to Joe Burrow. Now, how does that translate to the NFL? I don't know. And he's certainly athletic enough. I think we saw him run. Very much, in the playoffs, people were like, well, can he run? I'm like, yeah, he can run when he needs to run. Say,
I think what happened, and this part shouldn't matter when it comes to evaluating a player because it's one game, but the last time we saw him on the field was the national championship.
Yeah.
And he didn't play that well. And, that's coming off. We forget how incredible he played against Texas.
Don't forget, though, in that game, it was the first quarter he got his leg stepped on.
Yeah.
His ankle. Yeah, I think that affected him a lot. And because I thought when I saw the replay, I was like, is he going to keep playing? I mean, his ankle got folded up and he kept playing, but he seemed to lose a little bit of accuracy after that. And you can't throw without your legs. So how about we hit some of the comments here before we get out? I got a couple more stories I got to get to here. What time we got? All right, we're good. 3 seconds left. 3 minutes left. Rick says garlic bread Texas toast with barbecue dipping in the sauce. Yeah, especially when you got good sauces, you get the Texas toast and then dip it in the sauces. That is strong.
I just need my collards and a good cornbread. I'm a cornbread guy.
Ooh, cornbread. But see, you take a chance with cornbread because most times cornbread's dry, and when you get dry cornbread, it's right. You got to
Don't put any sugar in my cornbread now. Don't do that to me.
Don't put sugar in your cornbread?
Don't put any sugar in my cornbread.
Meets McGee says he likes Malachi Corley. I do too. And Xavier Legette.
Oh, I'm a big Legette guy. Big Legette guy.
Rick always comes up with some good stuff. Gen Z can never rob a bank. They can't write a robbery. Did you see that long format story on ESPN this weekend on the Chiefs super fan that became a bank robber, the Wolf? Yeah, that was pretty cool. Hey, tip of the cap to Bob Melvin. Bob Melvin has stated all of his San Francisco Giants have to stand for the national anthem before the game. Evidently, Gabe Kapler was iffy on that, his predecessor. What was weird about the article is he had to go out of his way to say it's not about politics. It's about showing that my team is ready to play. We're all together as one, and we're up and ready to play at the beginning of the game. Now, that may be a way of them getting around the political aspect of this, but I, for one, applaud it, and I think it's great.
Why is this still a conversation?
What's that?
I said, why is this still a conversation? Like, when you told me that, I'm like, what?
Yeah. The fact that he has to, say,
well, no, it's just,
it's okay. It's funny because it's okay if it's about the team being prepared, but if it's about politics, it's bad.
I just don't really care. And I'm like, to be prepared. I'm like, okay.
To be ready to go for the game. Yeah. I
don't know if those two correlate.
We don't have enough time to get into that whole topic of discussion anyway. By the way, Juan Soto now 6 for 9 with 3 home runs for the Yankees in spring.
Kind of good.
He's kind
of good.
He's kind of good. And in case you missed it, Max Verstappen dominated the first F1 race. Like,
joy.
Didn't even lose the lead when he went to the pits.
Boring.
Can't wait for another F1 race.
Boring.
And the worst thing I think I've heard all day, Philadelphia was not going to have dollar dog night. The Phillies. They've scratched a dollar dog. You know why? Because the Philadelphia fans threw the hot dogs at each other. This is why you Philly fans can't have nice things. Because you can't even have a dollar dog. Because they were so cheap, they just figured they'd throw them at people. This is what we do in Philadelphia. You people in Philadelphia, you ruin dollar dog night because you throw them. They become processed meat projectiles. Nobody wants that. Nobody wants this. And now they're going to BOGO, and maybe people can behave. See, This is what happens.
Well, Jason Kelsey's going to retire in about an hour, so have fun with that.
Is Taylor going to be there for the retirement? Maybe not. All right. Thank you, Nick. Great job. Also, big thanks to our guest today, Erik Erlendsson. Some great takes on the Lightning. I just heard Tampa Bay Trevor Sikkema from PFF, and Matty Matera joins us from Pewter Report with his take on the Combine. All great stuff. If you missed anything, you can always listen as a podcast on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts, or go watch. And please subscribe on YouTube and helps our numbers and our metrics. We appreciate that. Also on Twitter and Facebook, where you guys can jump in each and every day. Thanks to all our commentators. You guys did great. We will see you tomorrow. Have a great day, everybody.